I wish I was some sort of weird late night radio host that could talk to people about their problems. But what if those problems then were like kind of supernatural, kind of out of the ordinary?
During my interviews, I look to uncover the enthusiasm that fuels the work. On that measure, this episode is a success. You can't contain the passion and love these two have for their creation. I talked with Kristen and Kaitlin, the minds behind the Thin Places Radio podcast. I loved the story of how they met and how that led them to dust off a very old idea and somehow make it new. Make sure you stick around to the end when we discuss Kristen's novel and the connection between chronic illness and lycanthropy. This episode, like all the work coming from the third floor, is possible because of the support we get on Patreon. Welcome to some of the newest patrons and floor heads: Christopher Taylor, Jonathan Brandenburg, Nathan Emery, and Mary McMurtry. Okay, sit back, relax, and enjoy my time with Kristen and Kaitlin.
Okay, do you want to search for any traps? Go ahead and roll. Oh, no successes. Yeah, you don't find any traps.
Hi, this is Greg.
And this is Derek. We're the co-designers of Limelight.
You're currently hanging out on the third floor listening to Tabletop Talk.
Howdy friends, Craig here. Today we have the two people behind Thin Places Radio, which, if you've not been following me on socials, is my new favorite podcast. I've been trying to figure out how to describe it, and I figured I'd let them do it, so I grabbed a quip off of their website. It's a 90s style call-in show from nowhere about the unexplained and finding connection amid loneliness. It is the most horrifically comforting thing I've ever listened to. So the voice we hear on the show is the creator and writer of Thin Places Radio, author Kristen O'Neill. When she's not taking calls on the show, Kristen writes about loneliness, the need for community, queerness, and liminality, all wrapped up with some anti-capitalism. Now, I was hooked on the podcast within minutes when I heard her soothing NPR-esque voice talking about liminal horrors and the monsters that hide in the mundane and the thin veil protecting our reality. Kristen, I've been looking forward to this. Welcome to the third floor.
Hi, thank you for having me.
That was a long intro.
There was a lot to unpack in that.
But I, like when I was going through the call sheet, I was just like, I'm not cutting any of this. Like I like this, and part of it is I've had challenges explaining what you two are doing, and like I can't it's not a sentence. It's just not a sentence. So Kristen, unfortunately, you have to be kind of like berated with the origin story. And I know it's every podcast you come on, I guess I'll do this, but the way I like to frame it is kind of going back in time a little bit. Okay. So at some point you were like everybody else and you just kind of wrote a little bit for school and, you know, things like that. But at some point I'm imagining you wrote something or got feedback about something you wrote that made you stop for a second and go, I might be good at this. Can we go back then?
Yeah, I think I've always like writing aside, like I've always loved telling stories. And I think there's a point in your childhood where you don't think about if you're good at something, right? Mm-hmm. That comes later, which is unfortunate, I think, honestly. But like at the start, it's not, am I any good at this thing that I'm doing? It's just, can I do this with people or without people or in any other way? Yeah, so I had, I told this story to my grandma. I had her write it down. So I think I was probably 3 or 4 because I couldn't write yet. But it was about 2 dogs named Fido and Tiny who solved mysteries. And they did go into a haunted house. I was a big Scooby-Doo fan. I was drawing heavily from that source material, I think. But yeah, and then I also, we had, so I have 2 sides of my family. This is not really relevant information, but my dad's side, I have 1 cousin. My mom's side, I've got like 30 probably.
Oh my goodness, okay.
My mom has 7 brothers and sisters. So that we never did, a lot of individual stuff because there was always so much going on. But my dad's side of the family, just my 1 cousin. And so I have 1 brother. And so the 3 of us, I'm 2 years older than both of them. And so three of us I would like direct a little show for us to put on for everybody. So one time it was A Christmas Carol, but we were all of the characters. Or like we did a magic show, we did stuff like that. So yeah, I think there was a moment there before you went, maybe I'm good at this, when you think like, it's just fun. It's just fun. But I think, yeah.
And now you're looking back on it as an adult, right? And you know, as a child, you may have no idea what you were doing. You didn't need permission from anybody to do things. Mm-hmm. But if you're like me, as you get older, and I got about 40 years on you, I think, you look back at those younger times with a different set of insights, right? Because now you know where the story leads to. Looking back at it, do you have a sense of what made you want to do magic shows and tell stories so young and do those types of things?
I think, yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes I like overthink this, and sometimes I try to be practical about it. And then other times I'm like, I was put on this planet to tell stories. I think it's just, I love people, and I find people very interesting. Mm-hmm. I think that's where most of it stems from. Although I think also empathy is a muscle that you can choose to, flex more as you get older or not. So I don't think, I think, it's something that you build, but I think that interest as well, like people are just interesting. The world is interesting. And I didn't think I liked horror when I was a kid, but now thinking back, I'm like, literally, like, I was talking to one of my friends yesterday. I was like, I literally wrote a mystery in like 7th grade, where it was about this girl and they move into a new house and spooky things start happening because someone's living in their walls. I was like, what was wrong with me?
Somebody check in on her.
Yeah, I wanted our house to be haunted really badly.
Okay. So, but that doesn't just happen, right? So what is it, do you think, that draws you to horror in that way? And I get a sense you're drawn to a very specific type of horror, right? I don't get a sense it's, Jason in the woods, chopping down virgins. Like, you have a very specific type of horror you like. What's the draw?
I think, there's that kid level and that adult level. And kid level is, I love monsters. And in that, like, Guillermo del Toro way as well, too, where it's just like, I love, like, I don't know, nobody loves them. Somebody should love them. They're interesting. They're cool. But then as an adult, like, I love horror because I think it's one of the genres that is the easiest to speak metaphor into. Right. And like, I like don't really care about subtlety. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I do, but I think like I really love when something is both literally happening and also a metaphor for what is literally happening. When both of those things are happening on the same level. And I think horror lets you do that in a more visceral way than a lot of other genres. And I think just like being faced with your own discomfort, because it's not just about like what's frightening or like what's, scary. It's about what's different or outside the normal, or like focusing on those moments in your like actual life where you are paying attention to the world and you are looking at these things that are like moments that take you out of your everyday reality. Right. Because that's what's special. Yep. And sometimes those moments are weird, and sometimes they're uncomfortable, and sometimes they're great. So
And I think none of this surprises me being a fan, because I think one of the things that I noticed is, I'm the same way with science fiction and fantasy. So I'm a big fantasy fan, a big science fiction fan, and a big horror fan. What I don't like are science fiction shows, fantasy books, and horror movies. What I like are movies that use horror. Books that use science fiction to do exactly what you're talking about. So I think you and I are very much aligned in that respect. Mm-hmm. Now, you are not the only person on this podcast. So the producer,
this podcast would not exist without this other person.
The producer and editor of the Thin Places Radio is the performer, podcaster, artist, designer, and RPG actual play star, Kaitlin Bruder. You can bet I'll be watching when I see her on an AP cast. She loves to explore storytelling, role-playing games, collaboration, folklore, and accessibility. Now, if you've seen Kaitlin on an AP, you are only listening to her now, but I want you to know, as I was talking to Kristen, Kaitlin was doing what I love that she does during APs, which she is completely engaged, totally reacting, silently clapping. And it's one of the reasons, Kaitlin, that I just can't get enough of your work. So, Kaitlin, welcome to the third floor.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Guys, that's one behind the scenes look for folks who, I just am like this. Even though none of this is going to be streamed, you're not seeing my face at all. I'm just like this all the time.
Well, and that's immediately what I realized as I was having the conversation. I'm like, oh shit, she does this even when it's not recording the video.
I do this on phone calls, man. This is...
That's amazing.
I'm just excited to be here. I'm just happy. I'm just happy to be talking to people all the time. It's great.
This is good. This is good. So similar thing. I want to get your origin story, but a little bit different, right? Because your background is a little bit different than Kristen. And the way I like to frame this for you is there was a point in your life where you knew nothing about grabbing a sheet of paper, writing down some numbers and some dice, and then pretending to be somebody else. And then it was put in front of you for the first time. So Kaitlin, can we go back there?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So true RPG stuff like that, like a thing that is like actually a game with rules. I didn't know about RPGs until I was 20, 21,
okay.
Maybe. Yeah. I did not know that was a thing really at all. And a friend kind of put them on my radar, and I got involved in a game with now some of who are now my dearest friends. We all kind of became a friend group because of that. And that was back in college. We still keep in touch. So yeah, it was not, I've not been doing like RPGs for that long, but the anecdote I always love to tell is I think I was playing RPGs before I knew what an RPG was, because my childhood friends, like my elementary school buddies, all of us loved to tell stories. All of us loved to write. And we used to do like regularly, we would have a sleepover party at one of our friends' houses because she had the best basement. And everybody would bring a notebook and pencils and pens and stuff. And we would go and together we would pick a genre, and then all of us would make a character. And then we would try to tell a story about those characters in that genre. And then we would take turns writing pages, and we would stay up all night and do it. So like as like 12-year-olds, we were playing GM-less RPGs, and we didn't know it.
You're like basically the Forge in the basement.
Yeah, like wild. It's one of some of my favorite memories of all time. One of my like I'm still close to pretty much all of them. And some of us kind of, when you go to college, you kind of split up just a little bit. But I found out, so I was the maid of honor in her wedding. She's one of my best friends. We kind of reconnected kind of after college when we had more free time about it, and found out that both of us had independently gotten into D&D and tabletop RPGs. And we were like, oh my gosh, of course we did. Like, and then thinking back, like, of course we did. And I ended up running a one shot for her and her then fiance, now husband, and a couple of their friends. And now that is a very good group of friends of mine. And we just we would do one shots and play. Everybody would take a turn running a game. And so it's just, I don't know. I from a game from a publisher that someone made on purpose, maybe when I was 20, in the spirit of it, maybe when I was 10. Sure.
But so let's go back to when you were 20 then, right? So after you got done inventing storyteller games, what was that first game? So you sat down for the first time, there's rules.
I was so nervous. Oh, I was so scared. Very nervous. Teen and young adults. I'm now, I think, more of a fully formed human being and can manage my anxiety in different ways. Hooray for therapy and medication. But at like 20, I was in this game for the first time, and I had only ever seen like other people play or like listened to people play. Right. But I hadn't played before. And I had this character that I really loved. She was a half-elf cleric named Laura Beliadon, and I love her so very, very much. She was so scrappy. She shaved her head and was like grungy, dirty, nasty. Loved her so much. but I was so terrified to like play a character, which is so funny. Like I had done theater, like I had done like plays and stuff. I'd been in like 7 musicals or something, varying degrees of like role to chorus or whatever. But coming in and being like, oh, I have to make up the words now. And like, I remember being so scared to do a voice. Like I had one, like I remember practicing it. I made a little character playlist and I was like, to get like in the zone to play the little cleric Lura. And then like I practiced the voice in my dorm room and then we went to go play and I would be like, yes, I would like to do the mission too. Like I was so scared to do voices. And now I'm like, I don't maybe do accents quite so much, but I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'll put on a fun, weird voice. Yeah, I'll be a grouchy little teenager. Hell yeah, I'll be a weird old man. Are we allowed to swear? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. So here's the question then is what door opened, right? So you were in one room and you had this anxiety and you were nervous about writing real time, using voices real time, and then
practice, I think, and then I started jamming. I can't be that nervous when I'm jamming. I just got to pull some voices out, got to pull some characters out. I kind of figured out a way of prepping for games that like made me feel comfortable doing it. And I just kind of started running from there. And now I don't jam. Haven't jammed a ton, especially compared to how much I've played, but like now I'm trying to jam a lot more because it makes you so much better. It's just like talking in general, like it's at improv, but like as a player, I feel like jamming makes me a better player.
No question. Yeah, I could not agree more. Now, there's people listening that made up stories when they were a kid and found RPGs in their early 20s. What they didn't do is get on camera and stream so that hundreds, maybe thousands of people could watch them do it. So when did that first happen? When did you first get involved with sharing your hobby that way?
Man, so I would have been on my first streamed game 2019-ish. So a couple years later. And that was just a one shot. So I did art for Mall Kids by Matthew Gravel, and I did the covers for all of those. And Jess GoJG Fawn and Games now, as I think they're at, hosted us, had a for like promo for the Zine Quest, like Kickstarter and stuff. We came on and we played, I think 2 or 3 times. They hosted us and was like, well, Matthew, come on, do you want anyone else to be on? And he was like, obviously Kaitlin's going to come be on. And I was like, oh no, I suddenly am nervous again. Like, I don't know how to do it. And like when you listen to people like play games and like watch, even just like watching movies and stuff, like or maybe that's not common, but like imagining being part of something, like even if it's not like an active, like I would like to do this, like you have like moments of like, oh, if I were there, I would, if I would do this, we would like, I would pitch this, the rules would be that, like I would let that happen. I wouldn't let that sort of a thing. And so like, you always kind of have those like in the back of your head, but then like actually being like, oh, I did that. Like, oh, maybe I want to do, I kind of had said like, oh, I'd love to do that at some point, but then like, oh, I'm capable of doing that. Yeah. And I had already been streaming just like, so I guess that probably had a lot to do with it. Like I was already streaming like on my own channel. I streamed art and occasional games, but my setup was not optimized for that. So I mostly just stuck to drawing and chatting. So I kind of had some familiarity and like comfortability being on camera. And then I had done that one shot. And then in 2020, I was on a campaign for the first time, like a streamed campaign. And it was remote, but it was remote before stuff shut down. So we were planning for that. We were a little ahead of the curve, but that was the first like long form. And from there, I was like, I want to do as much of this as possible. Actually, this is so fun.
It is a ton of fun. Now, let's pretend I watched your most recent stream, and then I went back and found that 2019 stream. What's changed? So in the several years now that you have been playing on camera, what would I see that's different between those two streams?
Camera quality, for sure. I've updated my streaming setup. It is much better. I know how to use OBS now. It would definitely be confidence. It is definitely, there's a comfortability I never would have had before. And like I said, like I joked earlier, therapy, yes, like comfortability growing and like learning, but like also like as a person, I have become more comfortable in like my regular life. And I've become more comfortable with like the work that I do and like just being a person who exists in a creative space and just kind of making my own little like niche and like playing with people who make me comfortable and just like, yeah, like from the first one I was playing with strangers and like now I play with people I've been playing with for a while and like know the play style. So like there's lots of elements, but it's definitely confidence and like comfortability for sure.
Very cool. So now that's the one thing that I mentioned that you do that not everybody else does. Here's another one. So there's a lot of people that find role-playing games and they enjoy running them. They enjoy playing in them, but most of them don't create beyond the table. And you have also designed games. So I'd like to get a little sense of what made you go, I think I want to make something for other people to play.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I loved like GMing already, just like making your own world and stuff. Already there's an essence of that. There's the like, even if you're not making the system, like you're making something for other people to play in. And that's always been super fun. And then, God, a while ago, I just kind of had the thought, I was like, I would love to play. It's directly, specifically the movie The Old Guard, which I have seen 20, 30 times, like in a ridiculous amount of times, just because I adore it. It's great. I love action movies. I also love swords and women kicking the shit out of each other. Amazing. Absolutely. It's a great movie. But I was like, I had the thought, I was like, oh, I would love to play a Old Guard-esque campaign. Mm-hmm. I think that would be so cool. And then I had been like, oh, what systems could be modified to like support immortality? Like, what could and I kind of was going back and forth and I kept being like, oh, well, at this point, if I'm doing this and this to make this happen, this is no longer the original system. This is not even like, and then I was like, well, why don't I just make it? Why don't I just make my own thing that supports it instead of having to like this, but, or this and to make this work or whatever. And so, yeah, it was just like, I want this thing. I want to do this thing. I would like this thing to exist. Nothing supports that. Oh, I guess I could do that. And so I kind of started brainstorming what my ideal system, even like with the immortality, like whatever, but my ideal system, something that is like basic, supports character connection and growth, and like is the mechanics are simple and there's not a ton of add. It's just to facilitate the story. And so that's kind of what I started doing. And it's been on and off and I've got stuff. I've played it a bunch of times with folks and, it's I don't know. It's just being able to be like, oh, I want this to happen. And so I did. And then I kind of realized I could just keep doing that. At one point I was like, oh, I could just do another one. I could just do that. I could just make a little hack of a game for my friends. Yeah. So we could play I could just take a game and make little adjustments. It's just for my friends, and just kind of kept doing that once I started.
Kaitlin is truly the most, I could just do this person I've met in my whole life.
It's got to be inspiring for you, though. It's good to have somebody like that in your life.
Absolutely.
It's really easy and I have a feeling I'm more like you, Kristen. I want to be more like Kaitlin in that respect, because like I've got this weird thing in my head where it's just like, I need permission from somebody. Will somebody tell me that's okay? And like my wife is like, no, we're just going to go and do that. I'm like, oh, okay. That sounds cool.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Let's do it. That's great.
It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. So guys, the Insider Insight series allows me to sit down with designers, developers, artists, writers, and creators and learn how they approach their work. I try to understand their process, inspiration, and methods for crafting their creations. We're going to do a lot more of that with Kaitlin and Kristen on the other side of this break. We'll be right back. You like science fiction, right? You love playing games, maybe even role-playing games. But what if you can't get your friends together for a game night? If you love games like Mothership or Orbital Blues, check out Dead Belt, a card-based space western solo strategy RPG about skillful and desperate scavengers picking over the remains of junked starships in hopes of a juicy payday.
In it, you deal with lurking dangers, push your luck, and walk away with enough cred to keep on flying. Of course, you might get eaten by lurking aliens, or run afoul of rival scavengers, or face the murderous ghosts of long-dead spacers. No one said life in the Dead Belt was going to be easy. For more information on this and all of Sean and Abby Drake's games, swing over to acoupleofdrakes.com. The link's in the show notes.
So like I said, I've listened to every episode, and I've promised not to keep the two of them here long, so I don't hold up the next one. But there was just so much happening, guys. And I think you're the second time I've had podcasters on here, because mostly it's a lot of game designers and things like that. But there's something going on here. We're going to figure out what it is. We're going to break this down. So let's start off with, I now basically understand what Kristen was doing when she was 12. I know what you were doing when you were 20, Kaitlin. What I don't know is how the two of you found each other. So let's start there.
Where do we start with this?
I feel like my origin story with so many people is like,
they made a thing and then I drew a thing for it. Yeah.
What?
Oh no, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Keep going.
You're good. I would say I like so many people that I know and work with now, like it's because they made something and then I drew something about it and now they're my best friend. So like, I don't know why that's been my pipeline, but it's, I don't know.
So, all right. So Kristen, what did you make and what did she draw?
Yeah. Oh God. Like what? I don't know what it specifically was, but it must have been.
It was probably one of the comics.
Yeah, I think it
was for sure one of the comics, right?
Social media thing that I made. Social media AU.
You don't have to if you don't want to divulge. You don't have to. If you don't want people, if you don't want people to go back to the like old accounts or anything, it's up to you.
All right. So let me reframe this then, Kristen. Let me reframe this. Right. So you make something, right, and there's different types of ways of finding out people enjoy what you make, right? One is like, hey, that's so great. You know, the 90% of the people that enjoy what you make will never say shit. The people who don't like what you make will make sure you know about that, right? But the 90% of the people that enjoy it will never say anything. Then there's a small percentage of people that are kind enough to send you a note, leave a comment and things like that. And I keep saying this on this podcast, guys. If you enjoy something, tell the people that are making it you enjoy it. You don't know what impact it has. It has a huge impact.
Yeah.
But for someone to then exercise creativity based off of something you made, I mean, that's got to be like next level, right?
Yeah, I think I wrote a scene where it was a romantic scene where one character lit another character's hand on fire. But like in like, you did in like a chemistry class where you like put the foam like alcohol in your hand and light it. Yeah. And it's like an experiment that you can do.
Right.
Yes. And it was, I think that was the scene. Yeah. I don't remember, but just like, I just love talking to people. So we just started chatting about stuff.
Yeah. I think it's just when you have a creative, like kind of same wavelength. And we were like, oh yes, hello, we are shaking hands now. We're buddies. This must have been like 2020.
I was going to say probably
2021, 2020-ish, at least when we became aware of each other.
Yes. And I think we probably started talking more in end of 2020, probably.
Yeah. Within the past 3 years. We've only known each other for like 3 years. That's 2 years, maybe. It's just the beginning of 2023. Oh, gosh.
It's crazy. We've only met in person twice, but it feels like I've known you for like
I know. It's
35
weird.
years.
The first time we met, it was like I drove down because you were like a couple hours south of me for a wedding or something. And so I was like...
wedding. That same cousin actually got married in Des Moines. Yeah.
and that's like, what, 2.5 hours from me? I was like, yeah, I'll come down and say hi. And you were like miserable or something. You were like mad about something, or you were just tired. And
I was just recovering from surgery.
That's what it was.
I was like excited to be at this wedding. I was not feeling well.
You were, not feeling well. You just had surgery. And so I was like, oh my gosh. Like,
I just had surgery like a month before, I think.
because that was, you had to go stand at a wedding.
Oregon. Yeah, then I had to stand up and be at the wedding. Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll just come down and visit. Like, I'll that's a day trip. That's not horrible. And so I went down and visited it. And after we left, I was like, I feel like that should have been more dramatic. Yeah. But it like literally just feels like I'll see you next Tuesday. Like,
Isn't that funny?
Well, that's when we set the launch date too.
That's when we set the TPR launch date. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
Well, all right. So now you're fast forwarding on me. I'm not there yet.
I'm sorry.
Get your own podcast.
All right. We'll work on that.
We got it.
I want to go back before then, right? So for you guys to already get to a launch date, that means that there had to have been conversations that happened before. And does it start with I want to make something with you, or does one of you say something and the next person says the next thing? Like if I go to the Thin Places Radio Museum and I'm going to go to the first exhibit. What's the first exhibit?
This is Kit. Kit, you gotta.
That's
you.
I think the first exhibit. This was back in 2018 or 2019 that I actually had this idea for this concept of it to be like I wish I was some sort of weird late night radio host that could talk to people about their problems. But what if those problems then were like kind of supernatural, kind of out of the ordinary? So I started, this was like all I had the capacity to do at that point because I didn't, I was like, I remember I was thinking, I was like, this would be such a great podcast, but I don't have the capability to do that. But I set up.
Was this like while you were like a downtime or like during a recovery time thing, or am I misremembering that?
I'm always recovering from something.
I guess that's fair. That's fair.
I don't think it was specifically, I don't know, but I made a blog on Tumblr. Right. So people sent in asks, some pictures, and then I set up a phone number as well. I set up a Google Voice number so people could call and leave little voicemails. And I got a handful of them. I got maybe 3 or 4, but then it kind of petered out. I had other stuff that was going on and, I was like, wow, I would love to get this to like more people, but I don't really know how to do that. I don't think the blog format is working as well. And that was it. Like that's the last I thought about it for years, like 3 years, 4 years.
So in the midst of it, it sounds like it was one of many ideas, right? You're a creative person, and I'm sure new ideas are happening all the time. But it sounds like you put it down for a little while too.
It did, yeah.
What brought it back? How did it come alive again?
I don't remember. I think you said something offhand, like if anybody. Was it about a podcast specifically or just creative projects?
We were talking about, I think I did kind of say like, talking about creative projects. Like if anyone needs a hand with anything, like I love to do stuff.
To help. Yeah.
But I think you and I specifically were talking, like we were specifically texting about like burnout and like talking about like projects stalling out and like feeling kind of sick of stuff. And I think I was doing my little hype man routine that I do.
You're so
23 of 24 hours. Well, I was like, okay, well, forget the stuff you're supposed to be doing. What's stuff that you've done that you've enjoyed? Like what's stuff that you look at and like love? And you pulled TPR out of nowhere. You gave me this link.
I know. I was like, I made this blog forever ago. Yeah.
And you just sent it to me like, oh yeah, like this is just like a nothing thing. Like it wasn't going to alter the course of my life for the next whatever. I was like, this is June, by the way, June 2022.
Yeah.
Last year, I was at my grandmother's house on my way home from camping. I was staying there for a few days. It's like 3 a.m. and like we're messaging and I went and looked through it. I scrolled for 5 minutes and I still have screenshots of these messages where I came back to you and I was like, Kit,
you're like, this is something. Yeah.
Kit, I feel like my brain just got struck by lightning. This should be a podcast. And you were like, yeah, I always kind of thought so too. And I was like, no, Kit, you don't understand.
Like, right now.
Can we make this a podcast? Can we make this a podcast? And I was like, hold on. And you were like, oh my God, are you serious? I was like, yes, absolutely. Give me a second. I came back 20 minutes later with an episode structure pitch and like, I was like, what, please, can we put together a concept episode? Like, I will do it. I will do the edit. Like, just do the recording because you,
like, yeah.
You had the voicemails, everything, and the voicemails. The kid, she didn't say before is the voicemails that she had from the original blog. She still had them, and some of them were from friends of hers. And the first episode, the pilot episode, that is a voicemail from one of Kit's friends from the original blog back in 2019.
My dear
and so
friend
we used that
Jimmy.
for our concept episode, kind of refined it, re-recorded, and that's a historical artifact for TPR.
Yeah, because I was like, I want the voicemails to feel central, and I think I also I don't remember if I came up with the locations or you. I think I had location and voicemail, but I think you had something strange, and then you were like, you need more at the end here too. And and we workshopped, I think, the structure of
the
it.
Closing thoughts, essentially. Yeah.
So I want to go from the first take on the pilot to what became the first episode, and there's a gap there, right? And what happened in that gap? So what were things that I heard again, right? If I were to hear that unreleased episode to what was released, and what was added, what was dropped. Let's start with what was there at the very beginning and has stayed.
Most of it. I think we changed
almost all of it.
Yeah, the only thing we changed, I mean, we re-recorded because that was just like you on your computer, just so I could show you what I was envisioning.
Which is crazy because I feel like, when I recorded it, I was just like, oh, I don't know if that was any good. Like, I don't know if my writing was dumb. And then you made that rough cut and added like a couple of sound effects, not like a full thing, but added like a couple of things that I remember being like, this sounds like a real thing.
And I was like, it is you. I was like, I need you. I was like, you're so far away from me, but I am shaking you by the lapels, trying to tell you that this is something. This is so good. It is everything. And oh my God. Yeah. I think the only thing we changed, like a punchline to something, and then we
changed part of the something strange.
We changed the wording on the something strange, and then at the very end, at the very beginning, I'm coming to you live from my studio, or like what was it? The gas or the car is idling, the gas is pumping, and you're like, wait, I don't want someone to blow up their car. Her car's gonna blow up.
I did. The original line was the car is idling, the gas is pumping. Then I sat there and I'm like, her car's blowing up.
This car is gonna explode. So we changed. So it was like a little bit of script. We had I found some just miscellaneous tracks on Freesound just to like have placeholders. So that's different. We commissioned artists.
The biggest change is the music that we got. It's incredible.
Literally. Oh my gosh. Okay. Miles Morkery, Sophia Rana, heroes. Magic.
It was magic, honestly, when it came in, like, because they both sent it within like 24 hours of each other.
The same day. The same day, they both sent their drafts. Yeah, after a couple of months, and we talked to them separately or whatever.
Yeah,
and
I had made like this insane like annotated playlist. Like, I'm so sorry, Miles.
Shout out to Miles.
Truly, because I was like, okay, like just truly nightmarish.
Yeah, we went back and forth with Miles like 1,000 times, trying to be like, sorry, Miles, it's not it yet, but this is so good, but it's not it. I'm so sorry. And they were like, yeah, no worries, we'll scrap it and go start again. And then the next thing they brought us was beautiful, amazing. And we're like, Miles, we love you so much. And we're like, but it's missing something, whatever. And we finally got to the end, and like
that's when I made the plan. Yeah. That
was the day they came in. They were like, we were like, this is
the one.
This is it. We added like some light interference on it, just like that
interference. And then I think the missing link for me was that like bluesy like guitar.
Was the electric guitar?
Yeah. I was like, yes, that's what we were missing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was it. It was the Americana that you needed. And so we had gone through it just in juxtaposition. We had gone through all of these iterations with Miles, who adore literally the best song of all time. We joke all the time about how we just jam out to the TPR theme all the time. And by contrast, Sophia Rana is her stage name. I kind of was like, hey, I was on my way home from something, and she's I
think from where. Oh no, it was from the car. So I was gonna say, I think we talked to her on the way home from.
No, this was from when I was in Indiana. Yeah, and she's the partner of one of my good friends, and I was meeting her for the first time. I was so delighted, so charming, and we were kind of talking about music and then chatting a little bit about TPR because it was like in process. This was August, and he was like, well, if you ever need any other music, like, let me know. I'm doing music production. And I was like, we need an internal track. We do need we're talking to someone about the intro and outro. We need an internal track. Send me your info. We'll talk. And so I texted with her, and I was like, here's kind of the vibe. This is kind of what we're going for. We made both of them got separate playlists of like things and like vibes. Sophia came back to us with the draft the same day Miles got us the final, like essentially draft. And they came in and both of them were perfect. It was the same day. And they both, this was over like months of like 2 or 3 months of work. And they came in at the same day. The perfection. I was like, we say all the time, TPR is magic.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. TPR is magic.
You remind me. I think that was when it started feeling like really real, because we've been talking a lot about the plot and like the characters, because we have a character.
So you found the list.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? I want to hear it. Tell me the list.
Okay. So I have kind of just basically the project details, what we were initially pitching for, what like we kind of thought about the length and everything. And then this would have been pre-pilot, but post-concept episode. And I have written, it's a sort of paranormal leaning magical realism and vibes. My pitch for the tone is that it's whimsically odd and a little unsettling, but in a lovingly earnest way. It's about existing in liminal and ephemeral spaces, but being connected to others despite it. And then I kind of sent a bunch of I have like a word mood board from our things that we said a lot in development, which was I just kind of started. It's just a bunch of words, ephemeral oddities, liminal, neon, radio connection, synths, 4 a.m., premonition, wistful, earnest, broadcast, crossroads, static, night drive, whimsical, unsettled. I think I said whimsical twice, traversing spaces, lost, lonely, love. And then I had kind of our early design stuff. I sent a few instrumentals that kind of have the same emotional weight to it. And then I sent our concept episode. And I said, I think overall, we're looking for a poignant instrumental to be sort of an emotional touchstone in the episodes. There's no key gear signature or anything that we need. So it's totally in your hands. Do what you see fit.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was the pitch. And I think later I think we came back later with searching. I think
that was for Sophia. Yeah.
That was for Sophia, yeah. So this was I think for Sophia. I had a slightly different one for Miles that I think was different. Miles had their own, but yeah, this was for. I think I had put in afterwards searching. It wasn't in this document, but I did tell her later searching. So that was what we had initially sent to our the internal track. So that's Umid. It's by Rana.
Well, I've got so many questions.
So sorry, I just needed to shout out our musicians are amazing. And I love them
that's where my first question is. So you quickly passed by, but you said, I told her about the vibe, right? Mm-hmm. And then from that, she comes back, first take, nailed it, right?
Yeah.
What was the vibe? So
I
what
have
did
another
you
playlist.
Yeah, we've got what searching?
Searching is the word that we use in the transcripts to describe it. But I think, and we said like X-Files. We said,
I think that was one. Well, I think you gave that to Miles.
I don't think X-Files.
I don't think X-Files went to Sophia. Let me look. I have our musician email. Brief. I have our musician briefs still. I think it was the other email. But yeah, it was something to the effect of like searching, kind of like unsettling. And she came back and said something to the effect of like, oh yeah, I was kind of aiming for like 3 a.m. in a parking lot with your friends vibe. And I was like, we immediately were like, you got it. Like, you know exactly what we're looking for. It's And Miles got kind of a beat down from us a little bit, being like back and forth.
I felt so bad going back and forth so many times, but and truly I felt like I was like being like I'd lost it when I was just like, here's an annotated playlist. I'm so sorry.
and then they got it. It was just after you sent the annotated playlist, it was perfect. It was exactly so.
Because I realized we were talking in different languages to each other.
Yes,
right.
Because I was describing things that just sounded like they made absolutely no sense. I was like, that feeling when you're like going on a road trip through places where other people have died and you know that that's happened and terrible things have happened on this ground, historically speaking, but you still have to live here because also like where you grew up. And then like, they were like, what?
Yeah, they were trying so hard and they would get us something and they're like, this? And we're like, this is beautiful. No, we're so sorry. We'll try again.
In their defense, it's incredibly unique, right? Where you ended up is truly unique, which is why I flipped out when I realized.
No, I truly I blame me for being not making sense. Like, 100%.
But Kit, here's the thing. It does make sense, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying. This is hard for me to phrase, so be patient with me.
Sure.
I struggle describing your podcast, and that's a compliment, right? So it is, and what I end up telling people as I'm, on the mount preaching to the unbelievers, is I say there's this comforting thing that if let's pretend I didn't speak English, could listen to your podcast and go, this podcast makes me warm, right? Like it feels like I know this person. It feels like they're here to just make things feel better, right? But I do speak English, and the words and the stories are very unsettling, but they're not presented as being opposed to each other. And that is something I am not figured out yet, which is where Kit does it. Like, was this what you heard when you were writing the blog?
Yeah, I think I think it's also just something that is very interesting to me, and like something that I really enjoy is like that. I mean, it's like that is what the uncanny is like when you find something familiar that you shouldn't find familiar, and then when you find something unfamiliar that you should find familiar. But I feel like it's that, but to the side. So it's like when you find something comforting, I did put that in. When you find something comforting that shouldn't be comforting, or like when you see, like you find recognition in something that is upsetting or unsettling. Yeah, I just like it. But also, I think people have really picked up on the wavelength, which is nice in the voicemails, because like it's really, I do consider each of them like a little poem, right? And then I get to, it's like it, I mean, something like an RPG is collaborative storytelling. And this is a little bit that too, like to me, because like I am taking my cues from these people. And then also I think the thing as well is I am keeping in mind where I'm like, I am writing short fiction here, right? I am writing short stories, but at the same time, I am answering these people as if they are real people really coming to me with a problem, because otherwise I don't think it would feel as, it would feel more disingenuous, I think. But it's just like, I want to keep in mind for each episode that it's like, this is somebody who needs some advice or some company, right? Like that, even if, I mean, some of the stories are real, some of them are not, which is what I find really fascinating about the voicemails. So but I think just coming to those people, like this is a person, and like the host is very much a very like, I know a lot about her as a character. And so like then embodying that to answer them. Yeah. I think I've now not answered the question that you asked. But
no, it's great.
No, you have. You've helped me a ton. So there's another episode that has not been talked about between the two of you yet. It's one that will be released someday. And is that episode going to start with you going through the voicemails and saying, I think I want to do an episode with this in the center? Or are there some ideas that you've got posted somewhere and you pull them down and find voicemails that'll meld with it? Like, give me an idea of the process.
A little bit of everything. It's mostly Kit, though.
I have, well, right now I have mapped out until episode 27, which means, every so often I do go through. So I want
to talk about episode 28 then.
Perfect.
Do you understand what I'm saying, though, right?
I do see. Yeah. So, yes. Okay.
For your knowledge, though, none of those are like written. We just
and I barely know what any of those are going to be about. I just know which voicemails are.
Right. So just for your,
that's why I want to talk about 28, right? Because that hasn't happened yet. So I want to get a sense of when will 28 start to form, and where will be the gravity?
The week before. Just kidding.
Well, when we get a voicemail that like, that's, even if the voicemail itself is like chill or like earnest or not that like emotional or anything, if Kit finds something in it that is like, which She does for every, that's the thing that like comes through, I think, at least from my point of view in every episode, is when Kit finds the kernel and then like grows a garden out of it, like for each episode. And that's what happens. Is you do. It's every single episode is that's what it is. Like you take a little story, whether or not it's someone's real truth or a story they wrote for us, that's none of our business, but you respond to it earnestly and you find the piece of it that can be extrapolated on and can grow into this poem, which, like you said, it's a collaborative little story. It's they give you a story and you feed it back out, and then that is going to inspire someone else to come back in. So it is a conversation, even if it isn't between two people back and forth, it's between the host and everyone who listens. And so it's, I don't know, it's such a fascinating little like collection of a story. And, it's a conversation between multiple people and the host in a very odd way.
So yeah, we do start with the voicemails, and so whenever we get so I listen whenever I get like a new, like whenever we get a new one, we listen, but like, and then I like add it to like my long list. We have like a spreadsheet.
Set up Google Drive. Our Google Drive is immaculate. It's beautiful. There's spreadsheets. There's folders. It's perfect. It's beautiful.
Is. Yeah, and so we'll add it to the spreadsheet, and then but then so from there, I think so I'll put it maybe in a list in the docket of like where it's going to come, maybe, and
do
then
you tag it. What do you do?
No, so I have just like a OneNote note that has every episode in it. It's just like truly just a list, and so it says the number, the person who left the voicemail, what the voicemail was about, and then the location I want to pair with it. So that's the next step, because I don't have that. I only have up for the next 2 episodes.
Right.
But that is like not a science. That's more of just
vibes. It's fine.
So then I'm like, yeah. And this sometimes I'll talk through, but I never want to be too on the nose with picking the same thing for both of them. Unless it's for a purpose. And so like episode 50 that's this week's episode 14. I had a haunted house graveyard, and that's, I think that was the most like on the nose, but that was for a purpose because
it felt correct though. She was going through some shit.
She's going, the host has her plot.
She's having a little emo moment.
I do have we do kind of have a plot. It's appeared.
We do. There's a plot.
Yeah.
And I can smell it as a listener, and I love that you're not being on the nose about it. It's very cool. Keep going.
Yeah, no, that just feels a little, that would feel a little too forced for me. So I always want to pick something that pulls out something new out of the voicemail, because the location is never quite tied to the voicemail, but then the ending segment will have something from the location and something from the voicemail to pull everything back together. And so I want something that's going to make a really interesting mix of those things. Again, that's kind of the point of like, I keep calling it a poem. I don't quite think of it as that, but sometimes, but that's with poetry. You want strange collocations of words, right? You want words that don't usually go together to put up next to each other. So I think just
the analogy that Kaitlin used struck with me, which was the garden. That's nice. And I'm gonna tell you, Kit, you're really, really good at this, and I want to tell you how good you are at this. Not that you need me to tell you that, but
I can't hurt.
She doesn't. Everyone should. Everyone should tell her how good it is.
Full confession. I thought you wrote the voicemails until about episode 5.
Oh man. No,
it wasn't until about
not
episode
written a single one.
5 or 6 that I went, oh shit, I think these are like actual people calling in. Yeah. I thought that you just had friends reading what you wrote, because it all works together really well. And Kaitlin, your analogy helps me understand that, right? Where we plant this voicemail and then, Kit tends it and then grows around it. And it's why it all feels so tied to each other. It's pretty cool.
The voicemail has always been the central. That was one of the first things we talked about, was like the pedestal.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I said, as I wanted that to be. Yeah.
Yeah, like the host has got stuff going on, and we'll find that. But like first and foremost, like we're going to be responding to people. Like it's going to be, people can call and say whatever they want, and like a lot of them are the first ones. A lot of them are friends of ours, because we're like, hey, someone call in and populate the first part of the show while we get people invested.
We needed some to start out, but it's not like we told them what to call about. It was more just like, if you have a weird story, like call so we can get some of a backlog.
Yeah, I think we showed a bunch of friends the concept episode and was like, hey, here's a number. Let us know what you'd like. Give us some stuff to work with. And they did. And so it's so lovely. And especially talking about the collaborative standpoint on that front is like, it feels like such a package of love with our friends. Like there are people we don't know who have called, which is amazing. It's always so exciting. We're like, oh, we don't know this number.
Okay,
like, yeah,
and also amazing. The 4th episode with
that's right.
We don't know who that person was, and that was before we put up any social media.
We didn't release the number publicly. We had a couple friends.
So the ghost dog story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ghost dog.
Because we were building because we were like,
no idea we still have no idea who that was.
Yeah, I still don't know. I mean, I'm sure I could ask, but I like keeping the mystery alive.
We sent some friends that were like, hey, we need just some. Yeah, it's good. We never asked. We're like, hey, we need some friends to like call in because I was making the trailer, which was just like, we had some full voicemails that I would be able to pull some, but I was like, I need some more greetings and some more whatever. So I'm like, just call and start talking and I'll pull stuff. And in the middle of that, we got a call about a ghost dog. And I was like, hey, dude,
I assumed it was your friend. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, hey, did you know who this was, by the way? And you were like, no.
Yeah.
Do you? And so this was like before the show even launched. This was like pre-trailer stuff. We have no idea who it was still. And they gave us I mean, people are allowed to give us whatever name. But it's nowhere before. No, we don't need to know. It's okay.
They also left one about a Mothman sighting that we haven't used yet. That I'm just like,
oh, yeah,
that was really good.
It's so sweet. It's really cool. Like to have friends and strangers like to come together to like help us tell stories and like to be able to put their voice. I remember putting the trailer out for some of our friends and they're like, that's me. Like, oh, I hear whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's also so good. It's like, even if you're not someone we know, like, you get to hear yourself. Like that is your voice. And we have some concepts because I had someone reply to a TikTok. I've been trying to make videos of like sound
That's
clips
your
too. And someone
domain.
was like, yeah, they had told me a story in the comments of the TikTok. And I was like, oh, you should call in and tell us about it. And they were like, oh, no, I don't really like the sound of my voice. But I wanted to tell you anyways. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's so true. And also, so now I'm kind of working on, I'm gonna try to set something up that people can. I have to figure out how many words a text to voice kind of thing can do in under 2 minutes, and we'll set up a word limit and let folks like type a whatever story in however many words or less, and we will put it as a robot voice for them because you don't have to. Yeah,
I think also something that's special about like the voicemails is just like I think this is like I wanted to have a space for people to tell stories that they've always want to tell but feel like they don't ever have room to, because I think like the specific thing of like what's some glitch in your everyday life that you still think about, what is something strange that's happened to you, like I think everybody has at least one of those stories. And it's just like I like asking people what they are because it's like you always get something really interesting back and then it always like teaches you something new about that person. And so that's I think for the voicemails when we're picking them, I think we sometimes, not always, will tend to go towards more like with like a question embedded into it. Just that's more of the spirit of the show. It makes it easier to find a way into it. But yeah.
Sometimes there's not. Sometimes they're just like it's just vibes. You're like, great, awesome, let's go.
Like, what do you think about that? And I'm like, plenty.
Let's do it. It's really fun. I love some folks have gotten like get skittish about like repeat calling, and I'm like, no, call us as many times. Yeah. We love it. One of my friends who called in for the pigeon, the passenger pigeon episode was my dear friend Remy. Hi Remy, love you. Was called in a couple times, and that episode was supposed to be a different voicemail of his. And like last minute, you were like, he called in again, and it's so good, and we have to do it. And I was like, then do it, switch it out. She was like, okay, let's do it, because it's amazing. You'll always find something in being able to shuffle them around because they are really just like living pieces until we put the episode out. Things can shuffle as we go. And that's really fun. It feels like it's breathing. It's such a it's such a living show with the things we put into it and the people calling in and stuff. It's so cool.
It is almost like a pacing thing as well, where I do want like I want them to be in conversation with each other as well. And so I do shuffle it around to last minute sometimes. but it can't ever be too last minute because I'm not sure that this is something that people have noticed, but I do always. So I have this segment that says, "What is Thin Places Radio?" And then we swap. Those are different questions every time. And I mean, not to spoil for anyone who hasn't noticed, but it always is what the next episode's going to be about, what the current episode is about, and what the previous episode was about.
No, I did not notice that.
Oh,
now I go back and listen.
And so right in that first line, you'll always get a hint about what the next episode is going to be.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
The only thing that I can't, I have to get those two so that I know not to,
Interesting.
But I think I've actually re-recorded that maybe a couple of times.
We re-recorded it once or twice, I think it's a little less apparent in the beginning because there is no previous episode to base off of, and like it was the pilot, so like whatever. But it's as we go. Like I re-listened to the entire thing a while ago just because I think I told you this. It's but because it's only like every episode's 9 minutes long, and so all of it you can go in like less than the span of a long movie. Like you can just listen to the whole thing. And so I had been listening to, because I hadn't listened to early episodes in a long time. And I was like going through, I was like, wow, you really like, because I know to listen for it. I'm like, oh, that's right. Then, and that's the next one. And that's a reference to like, it's just fun. And it's a little Easter egg. Someone pointed it out to you recently, was like, oh yeah, there it is. I hear it. I saw it. That was that, right? And you're like, yes, it was.
So people have caught it. Nice.
Yeah, it's not always about the voicemail. It's just it's a hint about like some part, like some piece of the next episode. Sometimes it's about the setting. Sometimes it's like, I think usually it's the voicemail, but it's not always. Yeah. Not always. Yeah. It's sometimes just something, some different element if that feels too similar to something. Yeah. So yeah.
We talk about the two of you meeting. And it's obvious during that story and very obvious during the conversations we're having that you two are very much on a similar wavelength, right? That you guys obviously have a shared vision for this. But it's not always that way. So I would like to get a sense, has there been any time, either Kit, where you said, no, I really think we should try this or do this, and Kaitlin's like, nah, and you're like, well, too bad, we're doing it. Or the opposite, where Kaitlin, you said, look, because you're in a unique position, Kaitlin, because you're also a listener as well as a contributor, right? As far as because you're consuming what Kit's creating in many ways. Yeah. When has there been a time where either of you put a little stake in the ground and just said, trust me, and the other one ended up going, yeah, you were right? Can you think of an instance where that happened? It could be something as small as an episode or a concept.
I laughed because I know we've had them before. But it's not like we fight about it.
No, there's never been like a foot. I think the only time I've hard no'd you about anything was you were like, I was trying to get us to set up the voicemail box, and I was like, here's all the information we need to get from everyone. And you were like, no, I don't want to have that much in it. And I was like, well, then how are they going to know to leave it? And you're like, well, I was just going to text everyone back. And I was like, no, you are not. You absolutely are not going to do that. I'm saying a hard no to that. And you were like, but I could, but why? And I said, no, absolutely. Yeah, you're like, I'll just text them all back.
Well, because you were right. I was just being, no, because I think it was like, you were like, oh, we should have like an FYI kind of a thing. And I was like, okay, yes, but I need to do it like in character.
Character. Yeah. Nice. That was where we landed in the middle, was like, yes, we need this information, but it has to be in character. Yeah.
But which makes sense. So we have in addition to the Google Drive, we also have a Discord server that's just the two of us, but
nice.
We've broken it down so it's very granular. We have different channels for
like general vibes, things about kindness, things about the host.
Yeah, active kindness. But I think early on we just really talked a lot about what was important and like our North Stars kind of to the podcast. And so I think, that helped a lot to
we were on the same page from that,
and to come up with plot stuff and
I feel like I grilled you so hard at the beginning, just because I was like, that's what I wanted. Because I was like, once we know exactly where we're going, we can just run at it. And we'll kind of we'll course correct as we go. Like every once in a while, you'll be like, I'll send back a rough cut, and you'll be like, oh, I was hoping for a long pause there, and you made it quick. And I was like, oh, I missed that vision. I'll do that. I'll extend that or whatever. Or the vice versa. You're like, oh, it's too long.
I do so many asks of you. It's so funny. It's like the most delightful experience because I keep being like, listen, can we do this bizarre sound thing? Can you do that? And you're like, I'll try something. And then you come back and you're like, I did something. So now I just keep asking for. There was one this week. It's just there's a lot of sounds. I'm sorry. I just keep being like, can you make this insane sound?
Yeah, that was the one. The piano falling down a flight of stairs. You were like, hey, can you do that? And I was like, we'll find out.
I was like, listen, like, because the Something Strange is like, imagine the sound of a piano falling down down a flight of stairs. And I was like, it would be really funny.
Could we find the sound of a piano falling the flight of stairs? And I said, I'll try. No. And the answer was no, but I will make it. And so,
how did you make it?
I found some sound effects of, it was a crate being busted apart, the piano strings being ripped out, and someone slamming a violin against the wall repeatedly, and then like creaking wood.
Noise too, yeah.
Yeah, it was like someone was hitting his piano with like a sledgehammer. They were like, it was like an almost double-digit soundscape for like a 3-second clip. That's the little like end credit scene in that episode. That's one of my favorite things I've ever done. And every once in a while I'll come to you and I'll be like, hey, so I might have done something a little weird, and you're like, yes.
I'm like, I can't wait. Yeah, because it is fun. I think I was gonna say it's fun because like as we have been like making this, I think to like, because you'll be like, you're kind of directing this actually, and I'm like, what? No, and then I'm like, you're a producer, and you're like, what? Like, well, at the start, at the very start, but being back and forth, being like, and it's so funny because you're like, do I love producing?
Yeah, that's this
also,
TPR.
Yeah, to think of it as directing too. I was like, oh, I never thought of it like that.
You are, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One of our early conversations was like chatting about whatever, kind of joking about, I don't know, positions and stuff. And then I had a moment, I have a screenshot of this too, because it made me laugh there, where I was like, oh my God, do I want to be a producer? And you were losing your mind at me. And I was like, I genuinely had like
I'm like, you are doing that. It was so funny.
And I realized I had like a 48-hour spiral about it because I have been producing for the past like 4 years, other shows, other stuff, and like this. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. And so like that genuinely TPR changed like my career path a couple months ago. I was like, I'm going to be 100% illustration. That's going to be my thing. And maybe I'll do a little bit of like RPG stuff like for fun. And then like a couple months ago, we started doing this. And now I do like production assistant stuff, and I do a lot of design work, and I do a lot more like social media management and like behind the scenes show running, like assistant, like PA kind of stuff for different stuff. It's all remote because I live in the middle of nowhere and all that stuff happens on the coast. So that's, but all of that happened because something clicked while we were doing TPR. And I was like, oh my God, I kind of want to do more of this.
And you've been doing it for so long, you just had not put a label to it at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was just like, oh, I'm an artist, but I can do this too. Or like, oh, I'm an artist, but I can do this too, or whatever. And then like realized I was like, I've been wearing so many hats. The only one of them had words on it.
Wearing many hats.
I continue to wear many hats, but now I'm looking at all of them and I wear them all proudly.
So I hope to God you're not as obsessive about this as I am, but you guys have numbers, right? You have listeners.
Oh, I'm actually not. I think you check that more than I do because I get nervous.
I check pretty regularly, but not like
I'm not like it's not healthy what I do. What's the trajectory like so far? And I don't want actual numbers. What I want is the shape of the curve. Has it been a straight line? Was there an episode? Were there spikes? Like, what's the growth been like since you started? What's it look like?
I base a lot of the numbers off of, so when we launched, we put out 3 episodes at once. Yeah. Because they're so small that just felt like a way to not make it like boring. And not that it ever would be, but like it was, we want 3, we want people to see
the breadth of it.
This story that's kind of like very like one story that's one story that's another, one story that's a little more mundane. Like we wanted people to get the full scope of
very carefully. Yeah.
I bet.
We spent a lot of time picking those 3. And then from there, so because it was launched, that's the thing you get people hyped for. We did a lot of promo for it. And just like mostly word of mouth and just posting in social media, etc. And that was for a very long time the highest numbers we had seen, which, makes sense. People pick up and drop off, whatever. And you get the up and down whenever there's an off week or whatever. It's just very, very normal numbers. I've done podcasts behind the stuff, seen stuff where nothing really stuck out to me. And then recently, back in January, we started hitting all-time plays, daily plays. And I was like, oh, right away, it was because like an episode came out and I was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. I was with you. I was with you. And we put out episode 13 in the same place. I was in Kit's living room. We had never put an episode out together, but in the same place before. And we put out 13 in the same place. And I started noticing we had one day that maxed out our numbers. Then the next day we hit and beat. Now this is our new highest listens per day. And then the next day we hit about then. And suddenly we were 3 weeks in a row at around or exceeding launch numbers, which we had not done yet. And then I finally looked at like monthly, and we doubled our like
isn't that
the
something?
amount of plays we're getting monthly starting last month, starting January. We doubled what we had been the entire, basically. It's been pretty chill, kind of consistent listenership. And then you always get the tiny dip in the holidays, but not really noticeable. And then doubled suddenly. So I mostly look at the numbers because I do a lot of promotional stuff. I try TikToks and whatever. And I do all the promotional stuff, but like I always want to see what's working.
Right.
And see like where are we only getting engagement on this social media or is this reflecting in our numbers? Is this whatever? Like the very easy thing is like, oh, suddenly we got 3 voicemails. Like that's very easy to see. And that's always really cool. We joke with this all the time. One of my favorite things in the entire world is we get a call, but they don't leave a voicemail. Like they hang up. And I'm like, oh, they were checking it out. They were curious. They wanted to know if it was real. Like I love it. We get a couple of those in a row sometimes. And I'm like,
oh, that's cool.
So don't be shy.
There's a story behind every one of those.
I know. They want to know if it's real, and then they get the voicemail and then they hang up. Like
We have one that I think about a lot that's just like, I'm going to come back to this, I think. Or I'm like, oh,
10-second voice. It's a 10-second voicemail where it's like, I don't really know what to, like, I don't really have anything to say right now, but I think I'll come back to this. And they hang up. And I was like, and it's just so genuine. Like, I love it so much. That was one of our like probably month 2 or something like voicemail. It was early, not like maybe not early, but like earlier. It wasn't recent. So sweet. So
when you're doing something creative, Kit, there's so many phases in the process, right? There's the initial idea,
when I'm playing in the mud,
the
sorting through the ideas to figure out, which one you're going to chase. Finishing, which is one of the hardest things to do for a creative, is actually ending, right? And then you let go of it, and it's out there, right? And what I have always found interesting is, and any creative who tells me that they don't do this is lying to me. You have expectations, right? Like, I think this is good and this is why, or I think this is, I'm not real confident about this aspect of it, right? We build all that up in ourselves before we put our creative out there, and then we listen for what comes back. And what comes back is some of what you anticipate, right? There's things that you're really proud of that people recognize and they say to you. There's things you're insecure about that people may have noticed. What I want to know, Kit, is in the many months that you've done this, what has surprised you? What has come back that really you didn't see coming?
Man, that's a good question. Because I think I am not as social media savvy as Kaitlin is. So I think I have. I'm a lot more removed. But I think,
you're allowed. It's gross out there.
But you send me stuff, and I just think what's always really satisfying is when somebody just really understands, like, so when somebody just gets it, or like when somebody catches those little things that I put in there. Or I love when people get really into the code cracking. I think codes are really fun. So I put a couple of them.
It's so good.
A couple of them in a few episodes. They've mostly been Morse code. I'm like, I need to do another cipher, actually.
Yeah, we gotta figure. We gotta
get another cipher in there. But I think just when people, it's about like the attention then, right? Like when people spend that time and that energy. Being like, there's more to pick apart in this. That's really nice.
How about for you, Kaitlin?
I mean, I always joke that like I'm like, yes, I expected all of this. Like, this was going to be so good, and I feel like I'm trying to convince Kit all the time.
Truly, I'm just like, is this anything? And you're like, yes. And I'm like, I don't know. I can never tell. No, I really can never tell like if something is going to hit the way that I want it to hit or not. Like, I think that episode.
Never do.
Or like, when people are like, this made me cry, I'm like, oh, cool. Really? Great. Sorry, keep going though. Yeah.
The first time I read script, the episode 2 script, I did cry about the act of kindness. So that was fun. But no, I feel like constantly I'm like, oh, you're worried? Watch this. Like, oh, alley-oop, like, let's go. Like, watch how cool this is. And so much of our DMs now, I feel like maybe like, God, at least maybe a quarter of every message I send to you is just screenshots of people saying nice things about TPR.
Yeah.
Like,
awesome.
Hey, check this out. Hey, check this out. Hey, check this out.
Many,
and like,
but that
I
is
love,
nice.
there's a lot. It's so good. No, people are like, I'm so delighted. I think to be proven right. I think is what it is. Is that I was like, it is, I'm not.
You saw something in this concept.
Writing this. Like I'm helping every once in a while you'll come and be like, hey, should I do this or this? Or hey, does this work? Or I've had a few times where I was like, hey, you should reword this because of the tense is whatever. Like, but barely. Like I'm not the one writing it. So like getting to take it and then like accordion it out into like our like segments, because you sit and write it and then speak at yourself, and then I get to sit and like
make it the podcast,
make it sound finished. So what you're hearing is your recording until I give you the rough draft. So I'm like, but when I hear your rough draft, like I know exactly what I'm about to do with it. And so I think there's an element of that where like you send it to me and I'm like, yes, absolutely. And you're like, oh, are you sure? I'm like, don't worry, give me 2 hours. I'll be right back.
Wait.
Like, I think I'm delighted to be proven right about how like amazing this is. Like maybe I'm a little bit biased because I adore Kit and she's one of my best friends. And I think that this thing we're making is fantastic, but also like, I genuinely think this thing we're making is fantastic. and I'm just delighted that people get to hear it. And that like, I think I get like the little bit of like surprise joy when someone I don't know like shows up and is like tags us or whatever. Like when you tag us, you're like, oh, my new favorite show, whatever. Like, and not that I don't think it's going to spread, but like I'm used to like a certain like the sphere that I like, the sandbox that I play in. I'm used to names, I'm used to whatever, and I figure I can kind of like get some reach to some of those folks. And so when someone shows up who I don't know and has something like really kind to say, I just get the surprise joy. Not that because I don't think the show deserves it, but because like, oh, someone new, like this is amazing. Like I'm surprised by people. Welcome. I'm surprised by the new faces. Not that they are here, but like that it is someone new. And I think that that's really exciting. It's just, I feel like I would say one thing that surprised not so much on the audience standpoint was I was like, I don't want to do too many soundscapes. I think we'll rely on the music and the clicks.
Just knowing you, I should have known that was a lie.
That's funny.
You're like, I'm not going to do the most I could possibly do about this.
Yeah, I don't know who I thought I was, but yeah, you like Kit went out and like recorded laundromat sounds for me and like gas station sounds for me. And like, so I was like, okay, so we'll like, I want to do like very gentle and figure out where we're using them. So from a creative standpoint, like I can hear how I've changed how things work from like the first 4 to like onward. But like, I'm sure they don't sound that wildly different to most people. But yeah, that's a more of a me surprise. I was like, I'm not going to put too much into soundscapes. We're going to keep this clean, quick and easy.
It's amazing you didn't know you were a producer, and I'm sitting here listening to your talk. It's so cool.
Who do you think you are? I am.
I'm gonna ask a question, and it's a question you may not want to answer, and there's a lot of reasons why. But I'm going to start with you, Kit. What could happen with us?
Oh God. It's so funny. It's just like, I'm like, well, that's a Kaitlin question. That just seems so.
I started with you on purpose.
I know. That's why it cracks me up. It's just like, I really do think like our partnership is very special because you are the person that has more of that vision. Because for me, it's like when you think what could happen with this, I think first and foremost about the story. I think about the voicemails, and I think about the host's story as well, and just the parts that I'm so excited to get to, because I know a lot of lore about her. I know who she is. She doesn't know who she is, but I know. So yeah, I don't know. When you say that, that's truly like, that is all I can think about is the story itself. Like, yeah,
that's cool. That's an answer.
Yeah, I'm very excited to get to those points, and like that's something that was really fun for me to like. I've not done a ton of voice acting. I was on I was in season 2 of Archive 81 very briefly. I had a guest role.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. It was a person who was like crazy and I think it was named Carl. So I think it was supposed to be a man. I just got to like laugh maniacally, like give this like just like losing it whole monologue, and then like do a bunch of maniacal laughter. So that's my voice acting experience. But it has, I don't know, I was kind of nervous to like do more of the acting. Yeah, so like episode 13, you get like, and I think, you know, we constructed something very like with a clear structure to it. And then like a baseline, and we wanted to have enough of that baseline so that when that changes, people notice, and like, you know, that's important and it means something. Yeah. And so I am excited to get to like play around more with that. Then once we have established this baseline of like, here's what a standard episode looks like I think it's going to be, I have some concepts and stuff that I'm excited to like, fiddle around with a little bit, to be like, this is changing and this is important to the story in XYZ way. So yeah, more of that like voice acting and more of that like changing the script up. But yeah, it's all story stuff.
That's amazing. Now, how about for you, Kaitlin? Like, what's possible?
I think for a really long time, like I've been the same, but like we talked for days, we talked for hours and hours about what the shape of this was going to be. And so for the longest, like all I have is like these milestones, these things that don't have episode numbers yet, that don't have like exact specific shapes yet, but like these points in this track, this story that we're going through, of these things that are important, that these beats that we're going to hit, that we've been planning since
last summer. And when I talk about episode 13, we've been talking about that episode since last June. And so the fact that it came out like that for the longest time, that was my like, not end point, but like my stretch goal point. Like, okay, we're working our way towards, again, we didn't have a number for it yet, but we're working our way towards the breaks. Like, now we're working our way towards whatever our next, like we have these beats that we want to hit, and none of them have like I said, any in like definite amounts of time, but like things that are going to happen around the stories that people are bringing us and stuff. And so I'm very excited for all of that. If you want my producer hat answer, I would love to get paid for this, because I would love to devote so much of my life to that. Like I would devote, I think I texted you like a couple of days ago. That's why I was like, this is such a you question, because we were just talking about this. Oh, sorry.
I would do this full time if I could. Like,
yeah.
Like I would love to. I was like, if I could like blow off some other stuff so that like I could just spend time on TPR, I would love that. So we don't really have, we've talked a while.
We talked early on about this. This is one of our North Stars, is that we didn't want to do ads.
No ads. We don't want ad space, because that's
so short.
It's too short. It's the shape of it is too delicate. Like we can't put an ad in there. If we kind of like, I talked about like maybe at most at like in the end credits, I would say this episode was sponsored by blank, and that's it. Like that's the absolute most, but I don't think people are going to buy ad space for that. So this is going to be like, it's just going to be what it is until something changes shape. If at any point it becomes a much bigger than we're used to, we'll kind of take it from there. But from the beginning, it always like, we kind of always talked about like, this is for our friends, like this is for us and this is for our friends. And like, especially in the beginning when it was like all of our friends' phone calls and like people leaving, like our friends leaving us funny little notes, or like, hey, I need a voice clip of like a couple more hellos. Can someone, can a couple of you call in and say something weird? Here's a couple options, make up your own. I don't really care. I think what
our one friend, who, cause you have Remy, who's called in a couple of times, but one of my friends has called in a couple of times too, and left us a drunk voicemail. That's so good. I literally am like figuring out which episode to put it in.
Where to put it.
Because it's like a 10-second. So it's so funny. I'm like, should I even spoil the punchline? But I'll leave it.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Good. Maybe we'll tell you after the podcast, after we're done recording. So it's just this show just it just feels like friendship to me, and like having all of that and like being able to build our friends in, and like this is a show for us, and because this is a thing that like you started, this is your baby. Let's expand upon it, and I will help you give it like some scaffolding into like a different medium. And this is for you and me to do something really cool. And then it became, this is you and me doing something really cool, being hyped up by our friends. And this is us doing now a thing with our friends. And now like this is us doing a thing with our friends and people who also now are listening and get to be a part of it. So it's become this like snowballing of community from just you and I like shooting the shit, texting about like how here's what this should be. And now like,
And what I mean, what I find so lovely is like that feeling then of like, this is like going out for this friends, because it's also like part of who the host is like she's making this for that's the thing. It was like in episode 13 that we were going to put earlier that didn't really fit, but it's just like the listener, like in the lore of this universe, hears this station when they need to. And so just having that feeling of like community then of like listeners, and then to see like that anybody is also feeling like that, like just like listening to it has been really lovely. Just like,
oh my gosh. We got a live tweet thread the other day that did make me cry. Someone was like, it's just, it's raining. It's a thunderstorm out. And I just need some company. I'm going to try this out. And they like, when someone gets it and like, I mean, anybody can get it, but like when someone sits and like writes something very thoughtful, or like they give us a vibe back, they give us a story in return. It's like, that's that connection. That's what the show feels like to me, is like that, like we literally, like the thesis of the show is the host reaching out and the callers reaching out to the host reaching back, and vice versa. And like actually getting that in real life, I'll say that's something that surprised me.
Yeah. And you get that more, I think, from voicemails from people we don't know, which I love, because it's like they also have this connection to this character that I really love. When they're like if people like, or even inside the voicemails where people do feel like they can talk to her, or like that's like very special to me. Or when people are like what like I was just gonna say like also like when people, I don't know, when people are just like I'm trying to remember what the phrasing was, but it's like, oh, the host really in it now, or like our host, or like what it is. Something like that. So it's the Tumblr is all that the Tumblr is my domain. Everything else is Kaitlin's.
Everything else I got,
But when people are like my host or stuff like that,
What I find very interesting is, and I don't know why I thought it would be different. I'm amazed how third person the host is for you. It's very clear when you're talking about her how separate she is from you. Is that always been the case? Is that a very conscious thing for you? Is she truly that disconnected?
Yeah, I think it is purposeful, because I know so much about the backstory that like led her to this place. And then like how those motivations are like, or the lack of character motivations, because she doesn't remember, are causing her to reach out like that. But no, like I think when I'm writing it and when I'm answering it, no, that's me. Like some of the things, one of the piece, like a lot of the parts that I put in, not all of them are me. I don't know. That's what writing is. I feel like that's what writing is. It's like sometimes it's me and sometimes it's not.
Well, that's just the creative process. You go in there.
But it's,
the character is a character. Like the host, the host has been, at least since I've been on board, the host has always been a character.
And it didn't have to be that way. But it really, really works, and it adds an incredible layer to it. When you're writing that, though, Kit, how do you get there? Do you fall in there? Do you find yourself there and then start writing? Do you sit down and say, I need to get there?
Her voice is very easy for me, because it is like this heightened like level. You said like NPR, which made me laugh, but it is that like that like kind of formal like level that there is to it, and like the cadence, I guess too. But like but when I'm in it, it is like I'm writing as her. Like this is a character that I'm writing, but like I also like I think the host really cares for the people who are calling her, but I also do, like, I don't know. I'm also answering the voicemails out of a place of love, I hope.
There's always going to be bleed. That's just, just creating.
Yeah. I think, and there were one of the like segments from our last episode was something when Kaitlin and I were chatting, and I was like, this is something that happened to me, like that we put in. But like, I think when I'm like in that space where I have like this hat on, is like, I am this person who like I'm this person who doesn't know a lot about her own life and who is actively avoiding knowing about her own life because of reasons that we don't quite know yet, but but she feels like she can be this person.
We, the creators, know, but the audience was not. We know, but you don't.
Yeah, that she can be this person for other people then, and that be like fully present. And she takes this role really seriously, and so then I also take it seriously. Where it's like I put jokes in, right? I put weird stuff in all the time. I put goofy stuff in there, but like the host, this is her job. I mean, that's kind of part of episode 13 too, where it's like, this is her identity. Like this is really important to her. And then, yeah, I mean, it's also important to me then to like, for people to feel like seen and like less alone.
So last question about the writing. There's all kinds of different ways to write characters. And I've talked to a lot of writers, and some writers do it multiple different ways. Depends on the character. And I would like to get a sense of what the relationship you and the host have. So one of the things that made me like love hearing about the creative process is Robert E. Howard, who wrote the Conan stories, right? He was asked one time, where do you find your inspiration? How do you get these ideas? And he said, I just sit down and Conan tells them to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wonder, do you have that type of relationship with the host?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
It's funny. I mean, so like I do, every time I write an episode, like I do know what the voicemail is going to be. And then I pick a setting that I think is going to like mesh well with that. I don't know what's going to happen in the setting until I'm writing it. And like, or like, I'll know way into the voicemail and kind of maybe what the episode's going to be about, like capital A about, but like, I don't know. She's like impulsive actually, which is not something that I know if you get like right up front, but like she's a mess. She's like, there are things that I know about her. I think a lot of aspects of her are like heightened aspects of me. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think just like the structure of the episode really helps because, and that's something that like, you need from the beginning, but like that helps a lot because like I have a place to start from and to build from. And so then it makes it very much easier to get inside of her head and like just keep it going. Yeah. Also like I love character work. Like that is like my favorite part of writing. I love dialogue. This isn't quite dialogue. But I really, a little bit. Yeah. But I think what's fun about this too is like
all dialogue.
Yeah. I don't know. Does that imply two? There's
another voice in every episode.
That's true.
It is a reply. It's a call and response.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I getting a sense, and you tell me if I'm right here, that it sounds like you have a good understanding of the host, but it also sounds like the host is telling you stuff too. Would that be inaccurate for?
Yeah, I think so. Well, because she's living, and like I think it's also like what the host's world is telling me, because like an important aspect of her character is that like this is like her life, and so like to her, she's like, this is happening to me. Sorry, but I mean, this is just like her everyday, where all these weird things happen to her, and she's like, it's a Tuesday.
Yeah, for sure. Like, let's go.
Then to like think of those, I think those kind of as they like reveal themselves to me, those are very fun to like figure out, like,
I bet,
because then also that tells you something about her, like how she's reacting to all of them. But yeah, I think also like something interesting, like when you're writing a character, like especially if you're writing from the perspective of that character, is to be like, how much of like a writer are they, if that makes sense?
Ooh,
and so
it does.
Yeah, because with some characters, I might speak a certain way, they won't. And so I feel like I like calibrate my metaphors based on that. But I think something like this was less of an intentional character choice, a little bit, but more of just like how much do I want there to be that divide of like how like poetic or like how prosy can I get with it? And so I wanted to just kind of go full tilt at like get as weird as I wanted with the prose, and just have that be a part of the character. So
that's amazing.
It's literally one of my favorite parts about the show. Like I love the whole thing, but like I love the idiosyncrasies with which the host like speaks and conveys emotion. It's so fun.
It's stunning. It's stunning. So guys, we're going to take another break. When we get back from this break, we're going to do everybody's favorite segment. We're going to talk a little bit about the other work that these two people are doing, but we're going to get to your favorite segment, which is What Are You Grooving On? We'll be right back. This is the part of many podcasts where someone comes on, interrupts the show, and explains that you should consider paying for the content that you're listening to right now for free. That pitchman explains by giving $1 or more a month, you not only support the show, but you allow the show to grow and improve. Here on the third floor, we refuse to interrupt your episode of Tabletop Talk with such time-wasting pleas. We pledge never to run a spot asking you to go to patreon.com and give $1 or more a month because supporting content creators keeps the content coming, even if there is a link in the show's description. And there is. We don't ask you to click it and become a patron. We don't waste time rambling about the benefits like early access to episodes, getting episodes without ad breaks like this, or even getting a chance to play in one of Craig's RPG sessions. Anyway, enjoy this episode knowing Tabletop Talk, despite being supported by its patrons, won't engage in such blatant appeals for support. So Kaitlin, as we went through your the first 40 minutes was my intro of you. There's a lot of things that you do, and we know you're excited about TPR. But what else are you a part of now? Have been a part of recently that is getting you as jazzed?
Oh man, I feel like anytime I get to do work with like people I am fond of, it is like the best day ever. So just everything. But we just finished with this. I work with the Streampunks. I'm a performer and I do a little bit of design stuff every once in a while. But we just did Beacon, which was the first season was 12 episodes. We did the Alien RPG. And it was a sci-fi horror, which I joke often was hysterical of me to try to do a straight-laced kind of stoic character. Cause that definitely, I'm so good at having a straight face. I can definitely not look startled or excited about things all the time. But I think that was a beautiful little story. I did that. We were on Q Times channel, and then that was Sam Delev, Eric Campbell, Elisa Pearl, Noir Enigma, and then myself. And it was just a blast. It was so beautiful and so much fun. So that very recently ended, and then now we are over on with
Still in Space.
Huh?
You're still in space.
I'm still in space. I can't get out of space. I'm just I'm in space. I'm in space constantly. And I am, we did like a little 1-on or 2-on-1 shot in like the Discord for stuff. That was Star Wars. And now we are doing Star Trek over on the Star Trek Online's Twitch channel, the Cryptic Studios Twitch channel. And that's on Monday nights. We're only a couple episodes in, kind of finding our groove. I love Star Trek so much. So I'm just delighted to be part of that one. And then I got a few things that has not been announced yet. So that one I can't quite talk about,
that's
but there's
right.
Another very interesting, I think, fun format thing that's coming up that I'm producing, and also was asked to be in immediately after that. So I'm gonna be in that too, which is gonna be very fun.
So quick question to RPG Geek with you for a second. One, what did you think of Alien mechanically? What did you think about the system?
Okay, so I love free league systems. I really, really do. I think that they're fun and loose and like I also love I like just rolling a whole handful of dice. So having the multiple D6 system is really, really fun. The panic spiral is a lot. Like once you are like hitting that, like you are running yourself into the ground. The only thing that we had a little bit of a some like critical hit tables are very hit or miss. Most of the time they miss, as far as like, that's unacceptable kind of things in a lot of like games like that, especially horror, where it's like one, like there's a thing on there that got rolled that was like, you lose an arm, and it's like, okay, so you're gonna just give a disabled status to a player just apropos of nothing? Great, cool. Let's not do that. Like, let's not force someone to play out an experience that they did not ask for or maybe aren't like prepared for. So anytime that kind of a thing happens, it's like we have to. If we're using the crit table, it's a little bit more of a like, okay, so for this scene, you don't like for now you will have to recover. You don't have use of your arm for right now. Like,
nice.
You don't have to play out a non-lived experience to yourself without having consented to it. So these critical hit tables are a little hit or miss. But however, I do love free league systems. I love the alien mechanics. I love Tales from the Loop and Things from the Flood, and I've heard very, very good things about Forbidden Lands. I haven't had the chance to play for myself, but I really liked it. I had a really good time. So wow, big. I like free league games.
So now for Star Trek, are you guys using the Modiphius 2D20?
Yes, yeah.
So very different, right?
Very different.
Structurally, from its bones. How is that hitting for you?
It's interesting. I'm still getting used to it because I haven't played this. I had played Free League stuff prior to Alien, but I've only ever watched people or listened to people play this. So I kind of have like a base grasp. I think some things maybe either like I don't quite have enough of a experience with to say whether or not I find it crunchy because I don't know enough about it or if it actually is too crunchy. But I mean, that's not to say that's not for everybody. Some people love crunch. And I'm a very lightweight system. I'm a fan of a lightweight system. So like anything that's got like a lot going on, I'm automatically like going to be, a little bit off kilter right away until I find some common ground with it. But it is really fun. There's just something that's fun about having a dice system that's different, like having to roll underneath, like trying to roll low. I think that's so fun. I try to like, you got 2d20s, roll bad. And you're like, okay, let's go. Why not? So that I do like that. I like the way that the stats stack. And trying to get underneath, I think that's really fascinating. So I do have fun with that. I think that I got to get used to the system a little bit more, but I am having fun. And also just like going from like really scrappy, grungy space sci-fi to like very pristine, the Federation, spaceships like Utopia, blah, 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 like we're professionals or whatever is very fun. Should I be like, okay, okay, I'm a little bit less scrappy now. I'm still a little scrappy. I'm playing a little bit of scrappy
Literally
character, but
scrappy.
Like, she works for Starfleet.
Yeah.
She works in a scrapyard. That's so true.
Sorry.
Now, have you guys had a chance to play with the character swapping concepts? Where you have your main character and then you might pick up a red shirt character for a different scene. Have you guys played with that part of it yet?
We've talked about it behind the scenes a little bit. It hasn't been implemented. I don't know if we're using it. I know the last time that I haven't played this system with these folks before, but I know that they have omitted it in the past. So I'm not sure if we're gonna take a run at it. The show takes place on Utopia Planitia on Mars. So it's a like planet side game. We are not the crew of a ship going like sailing through the stars or whatever. We are it's like a workplace drama kind of thing. Like we are building ships. We are building stuff in one location. So I think this might not.
That changes things.
Yeah, it might not lend itself as well to this, but we've chatted about it a little bit. We have not implemented it, but I think it's a very interesting like a mechanic to have in a game, and also really like cool, especially in a situation where you're like, oh yeah, I'm the captain, I can't actually leave the ship right now, I'm gonna go play a little red shirt to go on the mission with y'all. Like I think that's a really cool way to keep everyone involved.
Yeah, so it's on the list for my channel, but that's the part that I'm trying to wrap my head around, which is how do I want to do that? So very interested in what you thought about it. How about the meta currency real quick? Do you like the I forget what it is in Star Trek. It's not
momentum and threat.
Momentum and threat. Right.
I think it's fun. I love like a declaration of I'm going to get myself in trouble right now. Like, hey, I'd like to cause problems for myself on purpose, please. Like that's something I really liked with Icons. Was it was a little bit different with like the determination and the qualities and stuff. But I love a situation in which I can be like, I'm going to do this really. I'm going to do something. Either I'm going to do something bad to get a bonus point for myself, or I'm going to give you a point to do something more like stressful for us later, so I can take a little bonus right now. I love an immediate I think in icons is a lot. Icons, we busted that system to pieces and put it back together again because it's a one shot game, and so we played a full campaign off of it. But I love the qualities and the determination like aspect. I think that's so much fun. I love being able to transactionally go between like, I'm going to use something that is core to myself to get myself in trouble so that I can have a little bonus later. And so the going from that to the momentum threat being a little bit more, you don't know when this is going to kind of screw you over, possibly screw you over, make things a little harder.
Or screw over somebody else.
Or screw over someone else, which I'm like, that's a little harder. It is fun because you all kind of like, especially in this table, like we just played, I was like, hey, can I give a threat? Like I'll try to like ask because it isn't just affecting me.
Yeah.
So that's like a little, like you have to be a little bit more strategic. You have to be a little bit more like, we all kind of got to be on the same page. Can I use this momentum for us? Whereas like icons, you had your own pool. Yeah. So it's a different way of approaching, like, how can I cause problems on purpose? Like,
for everyone.
So it's a similar boat. Yeah, for everyone. It's a similar boat, but with like different vibes that are like, you got to kind of like navigate different. I think it's pros and cons to both ways, but it is an interesting way to declare that I will cause problems. Like, it's great.
How about for you, Kit? What are some things outside of the podcast that you have been working on, either something you've put out recently or something that's in the hopper right now that's getting you excited?
Yeah, I feel like TPR is my recent thing. I wrote a book, but that is the paperback came out last year, so that's been a little bit.
And what is the book?
It's called Lycanthropy and Other Chronic Illnesses. It is
great title.
The best title of all time.
What a great title.
Thank you.
So what if I flip over the back of the book after reading a great title? Yes, what do I read on the back of the book?
Two internet friends who are both chronically ill. And then when they meet each other, one finds out that the other one is a werewolf. So, yeah.
Now we got more to talk about now. So what a phenomenal idea. And this is from somebody who I have a chronic illness. So I'm I need to hear a lot about this.
I think it's interesting too, when I talk to people, a lot of people do, and they just don't talk about it because they feel like they can't.
It took me a while to be able to, I have Crohn's disease, and it took me a long time to feel comfortable because Crohn's disease is like about, okay. So it's about the icky parts of our body. Right?
Yes.
So it's a weird,
don't worry.
Yeah. But at some point, this is going to be a great analogy or a terrible one. It's kind of like saying, I play RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not like, it's just who I have Crohn's disease.
It's a piece of who you are. Yeah.
It's part of who I am. And then what you do with it, I don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. But it's part of who I am. So was that the beginnings of it where you said, there's things I want to say about chronic diseases and when does that then morph into bringing in the horror trope of the lycanthropy had that always been
always tied together for me? Yeah. Well, this came out of me being like, being aware, like werewolves are really truly like a metaphor for chronic illness, and people don't really pull that together. Like, I don't know, people haven't done a ton with that I've seen. But I think that's always
like, as soon as you told me what it was, I like the connection happened in my head.
Yeah. Well, it's something that happens to you periodically that you have no control over.
It's cyclical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, it can affect you in XYZ different ways. Yeah. And also I'm just like, that's whenever I have a flare of some kind, I'm like, I feel like I'm turning into a creature.
I am super fascinated about this, Kit, because like I'm sitting here thinking like we also have some control, right? So we have some things that can impact things, but the reality is that the majority of it is way outside of our control.
Some things can help.
Kind of like lycanthropy, right? Like that's phenomenal.
Yeah, and
phenomenal. And I've heard lycanthropy like used as a stand-in for a lot of things.
And that's what I think is so great about it, honestly, is like the werewolf metaphor can be almost anything. And also I use like multiple. It's like werewolves can be like about being gay, and I'm like, it's that too.
Yeah. So you start work on this book. How long did it take to write? So I've never done this in my life. This took me 6 months to write the first draft of, which is bananas because I've now been working on my book. So I'm working on a book right now, a novella, and then I keep ignoring both of those to write pilots, like TV pilots. Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I'm getting into screenwriting, kind of. But because I love dialogue. But yeah, it's so funny that I was just like, oh, I wrote this book in 6 months. I'm sure and with quarantine happening now, I'm sure I'll write this new draft even faster, which was like, I am still working on it. It's been almost 3 years now, but
that's how it is.
I know. And yeah. I'm like, sorry, Dana. That's my agent.
When you finished the lycanthropy book, did your relationship with any of your chronic diseases change at all?
Yeah, this is so funny because in some part of my mind, I think I was like, you know what, I'm going to write about this. And then that means that I'm not going to have problems like emotionally coping with it anymore, which is hysterical.
The stories we tell ourselves.
I know. Because I didn't want there to be like a moral TM to the story. I didn't want it to be that suffering was for some higher, greater purpose, because when you hurt, it just hurts. That's, a big part of it. But I think a lot of it was me realizing like there is a balance here of like, it's a very strange place to be in, that your body to have like, so I have a couple autoimmune diseases. And so like, it's a really weird place to realize your body is trying to harm you and also trying to defend you from that harm.
Exactly.
It is doing both of those things at the same time.
It's too good at what it does.
Yeah. It's doing both of those things all the time. It is hurting me and it is trying to keep me alive. And it is still doing those things all of the time. I feel like I've gotten worse at coping with being sick, but I think it's just, I have a lot of things I want to do. And so I'm always just like, not now.
Yeah. We pick our spoons, right?
Yes.
It is, yeah, it's got, I feel like we could do like start a new podcast about this. So that's not what this podcast is about, but I can't wait to read it. Because it, I am now realizing as I'm getting older how much it impacted who I've become.
Yeah.
In a way that I didn't want to acknowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very, very interesting.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. All right. Enough of this heavy shit. Jesus.
Yeah.
We talk about this incredible podcast. Oh, go ahead, kid. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I'm done. I was just going to say, yes, I've been toiling. I've been, working on a new novel forever, but whatever. It's fine.
And also a podcast, and also a novella, and also multiple pilots, and also taking care of your corporeal form. And so also you're doing a lot of stuff. And so... So we've identified you have a ton of free time. With all of this free time, is there anything recently, and it can be a book, music, a Netflix show or something? I'm always fascinated what someone else creates that gets their hooks into another creator. Is there something recently that you've come across the same way that I came across your podcast that just got its hooks into you?
I feel like, I'm a big film bro. I do watch a lot of movies and TV, and I feel like there's been some really excellent stuff that I think, I feel like I'm going to go like a little bit broader, but like I saw Nope last summer, and I literally think about it like every day.
Just hell of a movie.
The levels and the layers, and like, man, I feel like don't get me started, but don't get me started. I've also been playing.
Isn't it a little frustrating how good he is at what he does?
It's incredible. It's amazing.
Like, not only did he have an incredible comedy show, he's an incredible writer of comedies. And then he goes, okay, I guess I'll do horror now. And he arguably is the greatest horror director in the last 15 years.
100%. To me, he's like Spielberg, like of our like generation.
It's unbelievable.
But like but I think it's because I think that's why he is so good at horror, because it's all about timing. And so is comedy.
Yeah.
It's and also like I think it's like seasoning, right? When you put like those separate flavors together, right? Where if you have jokes in a drama, it makes both of those moments hit harder. Or if you have dramatic moments in a comedy, both of those moments are like places for the audience to stop and be like, wait, whoa. Which I think is really interesting. So I think, to me, it makes sense that he is so good at it. And I think it's actually, it is easier to go from comedy to drama than vice versa.
I agree. Yep, I could see that. Well, comedy's harder.
Comedy's harder
in a lot of ways.
But yes, so I don't know. I think and Everything Everywhere All at Once as well. Like those two movies in the same summer, I literally was just like, I can't stop thinking about either of these. And I think both of them have like this real like sensibility of like, not only am I trying to say something that matters, not only am I trying to make a movie that is incredible and like has a lot going on, but it's also like they both have a sense of like, I'm doing something I care about, and like I because I care about it, right? Like I feel like both those movies are like, there's moments that are just like, they're big and they're bright and like they really care about what they're doing, and you can tell.
And they both deal with some really heavy shit. Yeah,
absolutely.
In a neat way. Mm-hmm. In a neat way.
Yeah. And I also play a lot of I play a lot of like, not just indie video games, but I play a lot of video games. And I played one called Pentiment recently. That was it was very good. Sorry, this is going to be a really funny sentence. You play as an artist who illuminates manuscripts in the 1500s in Germany, Bavaria, the Alps.
Aren't you tired of that trope?
You see it everywhere nowadays. It's just it's overkill at this point.
How many more of those are they going to make?
For real. Yeah, so true.
That's amazing.
It's awesome, but Why
does that game work for you?
It's all about history and like not only your own personal history, but the history of the place where you are and the layers that history takes, and and how that affects the person that you were and the person you become. Because I mean, it takes this like location, right, that had like the Christians who took over from the Romans who took over from the like local tribes there.
Interesting.
And then how like their relationship to religion is actually not all that different, or like how different things have like changed over time, and how people want to cover up history instead of remembering it. Like there's a lot of really interesting stuff there. So yeah.
Oh, that is cool.
I loved it. I love games that I can cry to.
Yeah, absolutely shocking coming from the author and voice of TPR.
Nobody saw that coming at all.
Yeah.
I was just waiting for you to go. And I watch Betty Hill. That's what I do.
That's what we joke all the time. It's like, that's what I thought you'd say, TPR writer. Like, that's what I thought you'd say, editor of TPR. Like we go back anytime like we have like just a very stereotypical thing about ourselves. We're like, that's what I thought you'd say.
Oh my God, I have to send you my spreadsheet still. I literally have a spreadsheet of unexplained phenomena.
You have to send it to me.
That's it. That's the whole thing. There's like 45 entries.
Yeah.
It has to also be like stuff that is truly unexplained, and not like stuff that actually people say is unexplained, like Roanoke. When people, I'm like,
we have opinions about Bigfoot in this house.
I do have opinions about, yes. And about like when people are like, who knows what happened to the colony of Roanoke? And I'm like, I do, because you're just like erasing native peoples. Like, I know they went over to the other island and learned from them and stayed alive. Like, unlike you, stupid.
We went to the Museum of the Weird recently, which had way too many desiccated corpses for my liking.
Corpses.
Which is too many of them.
Yeah,
but
you didn't know what your limit was, but you found it.
I did.
I found it, and it was more than one. More than zero, actually. More than none. Yeah, it was a lot. We walked into a room, and I went up on a little podium, and he was like, "Hey, KB, give it to me straight. Is there another corpse in there?" And I like leaned over. I was like, "There is another corpse in here," and then we had to leave. But it's fine. Dead shit, not a big deal. But like, it just felt very disrespectful. Point being, the cryptid part and the horror movie history was very, very cool. But I did get a lot of opinions about like, this doesn't count. I loved it was my own personal kit podcast. Literally, I want you to have another podcast that's just you talking through your unexplained list and your personal opinions on them, because it was an incredible soundtrack. I was obsessed with it.
No, honestly, my brother and I were going to do one, and it never happened. I know.
Okay, so
that famous Bigfoot photo was obvious. It was staged, and everyone.
Okay, stop. This is gold. Stop. if you ever want to go through that list, you let me know.
Please.
Because I would love to do that with you. I would love to do that with you. So you, with all this free time, whenever you want to spend an hour or two with me and do that, I would thoroughly enjoy that.
Awesome.
All right, Kaitlin, your turn. What has gotten its hooks into you? What did something you didn't make, something you weren't a part of that you couldn't let go of?
Oh man, I'm back on Star Trek. I think I feel like everything that's right. I got Kit watching Star Trek Voyager and Deep Space Nine, which are my two favorites. I'm still working my way through Deep Space Nine. I started watching it like 2 years ago, and I'm trying to finish it because I kept dropping it and picking it up because I got other stuff going on. But I'm finally back watching again. It just Star Trek feels like comfort food, man. It's so good. And I think a lot of the stuff I consume very clearly, obviously, and not that surprising, reflects the stuff that I'm working on. And so I'm doing a Star Trek show. I'm going to be watching more Star Trek because I want to like have that headspace. I want to have those references a little more like close at the front of my mind. Yeah. And I've been doing playing a video game for the first time in a very long time, which is what's it? Hard Spaceship Breaker or something like that, and it's I don't know the weirdest name in the world.
What game you're talking about. It's incredibly soothing and so interesting, and like it captures you. I had Sean Drake of a couple of Drakes was on, and he's the one that turned me on to it, and he owes me like 20 hours of my life because of that stupid game.
It's fascinating. And like I said, I'm playing a salvage crew. Like the character that I play breaks ships apart. Like that's her. She's salvage team. And so I was like, oh, I kind of want a better like visual catalog of like what like so that I have a better like understanding of how to describe and things, and it just makes me feel more settled in worlds and characters, so I have better references, and I mean if I'm involved in something, obviously I like it, so it's like, okay, yeah, this is the thing I would probably want to be doing anyways. And I get really, really motion sick with video games very, very easily. It's very, very difficult for me to play a lot of first person video games, and so if I go very, very slow, I can play Shipbreaker very, very slowly, but it is very, very soothing, and like the ambient space sounds is really nice. So I've been doing a lot of that, and then I've been trying to like catch up on horror that I never like old school horror, like classic horror thriller stuff. And so like for the Alien game, I watched Alien for the first time.
Sorry, that's like one of my favorite movies.
Fascinating.
All time.
Fascinating that I've never seen it before.
That's crazy.
It's literally one of the greatest movies ever.
I know, it's so good. And it's like, there's a lot of stuff I joke. So my dear friend Sam Dolev talks about being a pop culture void. And I'm like, I'm on the same boat. I'm like, most things I know about anything is through pop culture osmosis. Like I've just picked it up via other people talking about it. So I'm like, I'm actually like going back and watching stuff on purpose. And now the Predator movies is my favorite film franchise of all time. So I'm having a great time with that.
Prey was pretty damn good.
Prey is that's my film of all time. That is my film of all time. Prey is a damn good movie. I watched because so Amber Midthunder is in that movie and I adore her. I think she's great. And I was like, I want to support Miss Amber Midthunder and I want to know everything there's no but everything. And everyone was like, you don't need to watch the old Predator movies. I was like, yeah, but I am dedicated. Really? So I went back and I watched all of them except for I've seen some of the Alien versus Predator because I hadn't seen Alien yet. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna see Alien before anyways, I've seen now one versus. It's the weirdest movie I've ever seen in my life. I love ridiculous film. But I watched all of the Predator movies and then watched Prey and I was like, this is my favorite thing ever. All of these, I love them. People don't like Predator 2, and I think you're ridiculous. I think it's a cinematic masterpiece.
I was just about to say, unpopular opinion, this very controversial, is I think Predator 2 is a great movie.
It's a masterpiece.
It is really, you got to take it for what it is and just it is what it is, and it's really good at what it is. It's
on it's not goofy on accident. They're doing it on like the tone. They set that, and everyone is it's everybody is so like, oh, it's so goofy, it's so silly. I'm like, you're all distracted from how gorgeous this film is. Also, the color, the cinematography. This is a beautiful film, and all of you are being mad about stuff that is not important because you should just have fun every once in a while because this is a very fun film.
Wait, the movie wasn't made for them. They're missing the point of the movie. That's okay.
Yeah, it's made for me. Anyway.
All right. So now it's good that you told me that you've seen Alien, because if you had told me I haven't seen Alien yet, I would have ended the podcast and
just kick me out. You'd have tossed in the trash.
Crohn's disease. Did you know that the guy who designed the guy who designed Alien?
Geiger?
Yeah, had Crohn's disease, and that's why he. No, so the guy who then like built it from the Geiger Designs. He.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
the
yeah,
concept was the feeling of
the guy, and he said that it was largely based on his own experience with chronic illness.
You are blowing my goddamn mind.
Absolutely.
I
the
did
chest
not
burster.
know that.
Yeah. It's awesome.
It all comes back
I'm
to
gonna
like
have to look
personal
that up.
experience, man.
Dude. Yeah.
Holy shit. That's real. God, I did not know that. I've got some
It's so
research
cool.
to do. Oh, wow. All right. But here's another one. And this may cause the podcast to end early. So
I'm ready.
be tempered in your answer.
Okay.
The original John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yes. I'm so sorry. It's one of my favorite movies in the world. I'm sorry I yelled so
Favorite
loud.
movies all the time. Kids,
You
yeah.
know, I mean,
Where's
my sweatshirt? Yeah.
Yeah, where's your? I was gonna say, where's your sweatshirt?
I have a sweatshirt that said "I'm the thing John Carpenter made that movie about."
That's an amazing sweatshirt.
I do, and I have a T-shirt that has the Thing poster, and it is one of my Letterboxd top 4, and one of the pilots that I'm working on has some elements of the Thing.
It's an incredible movie. Now, I'm still talking to you, Kaitlin, but I got to talk to Kip for a second.
Yes, please talk about the Thing. It is her favorite movie of all time. No, I was pointing. I immediately pointed at you. I'm with you.
I'm with you.
Movie.
Right. So, and I could like geek out about John Carpenter like nobody's business.
Yes, absolutely. People, yeah, I have a lot to say about John Carpenter. Yes, 100%.
Right, yeah. Have you ever seen? I'll look it up for you if you haven't seen it, and I'll have to find it. But there's a phenomenal making of The Thing.
I need to see that yesterday. I love.
Okay, I'll track it down.
I love practical effects.
I go
crazy
the
for them.
story and the shit they went through and how that came together. And it seems like that's true of every John Carpenter movie. It's like every John Carpenter movie is just like, here, John, here's $5 and some duct tape.
Literally.
Can you put together a movie for us?
And then he does. And it fucking
and then he goes, oh, and I'll just do the soundtrack real quick.
Yeah, literally.
Hey, check this out, alley-oop.
Yeah,
it's absolutely incredible. But okay, so back.
I'm sorry. Mouth of Madness is like, I just think also like he has these movies that are acclaimed and then also these other movies that people are like, well, that one's just silly. And I'm like, no, shut up. Mouth of Madness is amazing. My brother and I, quarantine it's a very long story, but there was one stretch of quarantine where it was just me and my brother, and it was winter in Maine. And I was like, it wasn't the Shining scenario. That was when I was stuck by myself. But my brother and I are very close. We're very good friends. And so it was actually really nice, like getting to hang out with him again. But that's what we did. We started in October, and we're like, we're going to have like horror movie October where we watch classic horror. Right. And so we started with like the original Night of the Living Dead. Like, you know, like really like, yeah, went on from there. But, and then it wasn't horror October. We just kept going. Just kept watching horror movies. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we watched The Mouth of Madness. We watched The Thing. We watched a lot of, I mean, I've seen The Thing before, but yeah.
So Kaitlin, after all of this hooting and hotting that Kit and I did, we totally stepped over the fact. Have you seen The Thing?
I have not, because it is on my list of the. You know this about me. I did not watch. I am a pop culture void. I didn't watch any classic films
specifically.
I have not. I know, and so it's on my list. It's the ones I'm going through. I'm going back and like trying to get all the ones, because this is very similar to what Kit said earlier. Was like I didn't like horror growing up. I also was like very. I thought I didn't like horror like growing up, and
Sheltered.
I think I had a lot of anxiety as a person, because I get really bad like secondhand embarrassment. Like if my sisters were watching like prank shows, like I would feel like I was nauseous about it. And so that applied to horror and action. It was real rough for me to watch movies, I think, when I was younger, that were like really like wild and scary. And so that was a lot for me. And I grew up on on a farm. Our house is 150 years old or whatever. Like, it is like the house creaks and groans. Everybody's got stories about weird stuff. My mom says, she's like, I have my list of stories I want to call TPR about. It's very cute. I can't wait for her to call in.
Both my parents
but it's like, you both have really good voice. We got to get the family.
Yeah.
All right, so one more I'm going to throw at you, and I don't know how this became, testing Kaitlin, but
I was just going to say that I had like I feel like it was inevitable that I ended up at horror just because of where I grew up, like in the woods, in the dark, in this creaky old house. Like I didn't like horror because I was living in like a thing that maybe felt like. And now that I don't live here and also have my anxiety managed, I like am fascinated by horror. So I'm like, I need to go back and like eat all the old ones. So I haven't got that. But Yeah.
So one more for your list, and this is a more recent one. It's a Korean horror movie, and it's called The Wailing.
I know this movie.
I don't know this movie.
I haven't seen it. It's on my list.
All right.
Watch it. It I love horror. I'm like you. I just love horror movies and have for a long time. It's been a long time since I've seen a horror movie that I finished watching and I go, I'm not sure what I just watched. I can't stop thinking about it. It's possible I didn't like it. And I'm going to watch it again.
And I'm going to think about it for the rest of my life. Yeah.
And I did. I watched it back to back. I went, restarted, and I watched it again. And what it was for me is that it was so different. And now I've gone down a whole Korean horror film rabbit hole because I realized that part of that was cultural, right?
Yeah.
But it's a movie. It's a movie, and I do enjoy it. All right, so horror movies have been something that you've been consuming, trying to fill the pop culture void. Is there another recent pop culture void you have filled that you're super proud of? TV show or a movie? Say Empire Strikes Back, you coward.
What was it?
Say Empire Strikes Back, you coward.
I've seen all of the Star Wars.
Not a Star Wars.
All the singular Star Wars.
The one war.
No, I did watch, this is not a backtracking, but I did watch Kenobi because we did a Star Wars thing. And I was like, I need to watch something that's more like in the time frame, watch it. And I was surprised. It was really good. I didn't think I was going to like it because I feel like some of the Disney Plus stuff has been such a hit or miss.
People have been too hard on it. I'm with you on that one.
It was good. I really liked it. But yeah, I think as far as, I feel like I've done so much like content stuff. Like I do a lot of behind the scenes work with Pixel Circus, and I like watch their content and like clip stuff and do whatever. And so I feel like I'm watching a lot of stuff for work. And so it's harder, I think, as far as like brain space and bandwidth to like attach to longer form stuff that I can't kind of at least zone out on a little bit. So I think I've been watching a lot of like I said, like Star Trek was so much fun to just put on and just like vibe with for a while. I've also been watching a lot of food history, which is really fun. Yeah. It's called Tasting History with Max Miller is the channel I'm on right now. And a friend just turned me on to another one that I do not remember the name of because I have not watched it yet. But he just kind of goes through, he finds ancient recipes and then talks about like it's so cool. It talks about the pieces that they needed, like how you would get them, and then kind of goes through making it, and then does a segment about the historical, social, geographical context behind this recipe and the ingredients and everything. And then at the end, he tries it and tells you what he thinks of it. It's very fun when he doesn't like it, where he's like, "Oh, what sucks." Well, it's not for me, but like it's like there was like a gelatin. Yeah, there was like a gelatin thing that made it. And he's like, "I don't like Jell-O, so I'm not gonna like this." Yeah, it's really fun, but I love learning new things. I love a history thing. I love like a very niche history thing, especially like that. I love just anytime someone has like a really specific knowledge of a thing that they're excited about. I'm like, tell me everything, whether that's content or like a friend. I love that kind of a thing. So that's kind of, and that's a thing that I kind of put on in the background. Like even if I've seen an episode before, I'm like, yeah, I'll let it play again because it's just so fascinating. And just like the I don't know, the historical context around food is really, really cool because that's human. Like that's humanity. That's food and recipe and like how we make a thing and how it exists. Like that's not just like the food history. That's like
cultural,
our history.
It's so much. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. All right. So I feel bad now because I feel like to a certain degree, Kit and I have been like doing like gotchas. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? So here's what I want to know.
Okay.
What is something that when you find out somebody else hasn't watched it, that you have that same reaction?
Oh my gosh.
What's your thing?
1978
Alien
Escape to Witch Mountain.
Well, okay. Okay.
Phenomenal.
One of the first, I think this was one of my all-time favorite films. This was the first time we ever hung out like on
we watched Pete's
Dragon because we both
Pete's
Dragon.
A
bunch of weird, like I grew up on like that and like Hitchcock movies, which is so funny. My parents were like, why do you like horror? Oh, why do you like all this weird stuff? And I'm like, we watched nothing.
You showed me The Birds when I was 11.
When I was a child. What did you think was going to happen here? But
some of those Sunday night Disney movies, like Pete's Dragon and Escape from Witch Mountain stuff,
so good.
So good.
There's some crazy ass shit in those movies.
Harmonica,
like
scene in Escape to Witch Mountain. I think about that.
There may have been substances involved.
Probably, yeah. I've got the book. It's based off of a kid's book from the 1960s,
and I know that.
Bought it. Yeah, because I was like, I wanted to find there's like new covers, printings with new covers, and I don't think they're as fun as the old ones. So I couldn't find any original ones that weren't like $300. I was like, okay, fine, I'll just get like the reprint. But I have to read it. I remember I've read the first couple of chapters a couple of times and have just like, you know, I'm reading a kid's book for fun. And so I'm like, oh, I have work to do. And like, I'll drop it and come back to it. But I do have it. I did get it late last year. I finally bought one like for real. And I was like, I want to read this. Cool. But it is such I think that was so like that's the thing that I consider in my mind as like, that's a pivotal, like creative, like media moment for baby Kaitlin is like movies like that, that and like Matilda and like just extraordinary kids trying to like just like do like navigate something that's more mundane. And I think that that's so fun and like finding that like bridge between like a superpower or like a sci-fi thing or like aliens and like, but you're also just like a bunch of kids, kids on bikes saving the world. Like that's my favorite kind of genre. I love it so much. And so that's definitely like that's a pivotal piece of media for baby Kaitlin is that one.
Yeah, I realized the first book that I wrote, which was when I was 16, so it's really bad, was Twins with Superpowers. Classic.
Twins with Superpowers.
Classic. You know, one of those moments for me was watching Dial M for Murder, which is, again, hilarious. Like, the guy gets stabbed with a pair of scissors, and my parents were like, why are you so weird? But there's a shot in Dial M for Murder where they're planning out the murder that's shot from above. It's shot from the corner of the room, he did that a lot. And I remember it rocking my entire tiny world, which is so funny because I just rewatched that movie and it's just a different shot of the scene. But I thought it was the coolest thing in the world because I was like, it's above them and they're planning a murder.
So good. I love the stuff that sticks with like kid brain. Yeah. There's just stuff that gets boggle the mind. Yeah.
What's been interesting for me is my daughter is 9 years old.
Oh, really good age.
So she's just now old enough that I can start putting some of this stuff in front of her, and you never know.
Yeah,
you just never know. And you know, so like Escape from Witch Mountain. I'm like, you know what the hell? But let's try it out. Over and over again. Loved it. Right? Never would, and I never would have picked that. Put ET in front of her. She's like. Pfft. Whereas like E.T. is like my entire childhood.
I just rewatched E.T. and I cried. As a kid, I was like, this is weird. So
it's pretty hardcore.
I was that same boat. I didn't really like E.T. The only relationship I had with E.T. was that as a kid, everyone told me I looked like baby Drew Barrymore.
Oh,
that's exactly what I look like. The big like blonde curly hair, big eyes, little nose. That's exactly what I looked like as a child. So that's my relationship with E.T. is I watched it and didn't like it, but I liked Escape to Witch Mountain.
But it's also been fun for me too because I've been discovering so much through her.
Oh,
right. So there's a lot of stuff like like Turning Red, Matilda, the new Matilda.
Oh my God, I can't wait to watch it. I'm so excited.
Oh, like it's really, really good. And don't look up who plays the evil teacher.
Just guess.
Look who it is.
I actually know who it is. I won't.
I do think I know too, but
I won't spoil
it. I love the musical. I love the movie. The movie was very instrumental to me as a child, but I love the musical. I discovered it when I was in like high school. And now that I found out they were doing a movie based on the musical, I was like, I'm going to cry. I'm going to sob in my room. Yeah. It's going to be great.
Oh, the kids are amazing. She's incredible. The little boy that eats all the stuff is the perfect casting. Just it was really, really good. Like Encanto, being able to watch that with her. Oh, like, and I can't watch it with my wife is, half Cuban, half Venezuelan, and you know, like her mother straight from like the Exodus, the Cuban Exodus and stuff. So it's like my poor wife can't make it 10 minutes through that movie. God bless her.
Yeah,
you know it's but it's neat. It's neat to be able to see that through somebody else's eyes, guys. There is a ton of really, really fun things to do on a Tuesday night that does not involve talking to me for 2 hours. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate you guys making the time.
I had so much fun.
Thanks so much for having us. When you sent us the ask, I was like, Yeah, absolutely. We want to sit and talk about the thing that we make, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
This has been a ton of fun. Real quick, let's let people know who. There's a lot of people that obviously want more of you, and of course, the first link as you're scrolling down is going to be to the podcast.
Thank you. But
I'd like to share some more links for them. So what are some other things that we want to make sure people check out that want to get more Kit and more Kaitlin?
Yeah, I'm like, what do I've got my Tumblr, which I don't use a lot. It's kristenoneal.tumblr.com. And then I have an Instagram. It's Discount Goblin. I don't know why.
Just has been. And the TPR Tumblr.
And the TPR Tumblr, yeah.
Where do we buy the book?
Oh, yeah, anywhere. But I would love if you bought it from an indie so I can send a link.
Perfect.
Would love to support indie bookstores or even your library. I work at a library as well, so got to plug my library. And then I'm like, what else? Maybe my website, which is KristenOnealWrites.com. And I need to update that too. It still has the old TPR from before we actually made the cover art. Well, I said we. You did that. I didn't do that.
How about for you, Kaitlin? If somebody's listening, they want more Kaitlin, where should they go?
I post everything that I post every day all the time, but like everything that I'm doing will be on my Twitter, which is KKAMABR. I've been posting TikToks for TPR, which are very fun to make. Very hit or miss whether people want words as a TikTok, but you know what? Take it or leave it, man. I think it looks cool. Otherwise, right now I said I'm streaming Monday nights over on Cryptic Studios Twitch channel. We're playing a Star Trek RPG game, which has been a delight. There's more stuff coming down the pipeline that I can't quite talk about yet because it hasn't been announced. Mm-hmm. But I think we can.
I was going to say, we're also are both contributors.
Yeah, Matthew.
Can we say that?
Matthew gave us the okay to talk about.
Yeah. Well, you want to start? I was going to say, you know more about this. I mean, I know about it too.
Yes.
But.
So Mall Kids,
you're more involved with the original
RPGs had a couple of additions have been made. There is going to be a new expansion coming out very, very soon. I think we're good to announce because this
it's like in April.
This will probably be up after it's been announced. Yeah, the Kickstarter should be in April. I think the dates might be in flux. So if this is out before then, keep an eye out in April for the newest Zine Quest
we'll time
extension.
It. Yes. We'll time it. So there's going to be there's a link. There's a link. Scroll down. There's a link to the Kickstarter.
More Mall, more kids.
Okay, beautiful. More kids. Well, that was the second one. I don't know what this one is.
Actually called, I forgot.
It was more Malls, more kids.
You're so right. That's hilarious.
I'm so excited. Yeah. So I wrote Kit in to come in and be a contributor because she told me she wanted to do RPG writing, and I said, hey, let me put all my friends in a Soul Globe and shake it around until everybody's connected. So that'd be really great for me.
I run Teen D&D at the library, which is truly like an enormous joy. They're amazing. They're so smart. I love them. And
they don't have to learn how to RPG. They already know. It's amazing.
I was worried. I made a whole list of here's of house rules. So be respectful of each other. They are so kind and patient and didn't need any of it. So
yeah, they're smarter than us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, no,
the
very,
kids are
very true.
Man.
Yeah.
Last but not least, you who's listening. This is the end. You made it the whole way, and I appreciate you too. Take care.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to Tabletop Talk and share it with your friends. Check out our content on YouTube and Twitch. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook and stay updated on everything coming from Third Floor. All the links are in the show notes. Take care, floorheads.
You two are very good at this.
All right. Cool.
We're very chatty. You're going to learn this.
I'm never inviting amateurs on this podcast again.
We do love to talk.
Only people who have podcasted before. That's it.
Yeah.
No, that was great, guys. And again, you followed me. Thanks. You let me push a little bit, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I the other podcast I do is not edited like down. I mean, if we have dead air or whatever, but it is literally just you have a thing and then you like just go forever and ever. And it's not quite so much about like us. It's a folklore show, but it is this type of form where you just talk like, oh, I have a thing. Oh, suddenly we're talking about the invention of mattresses. How did we get here? Okay, let's get back to centaurs. Just kidding. Anyways, so like,
I just
but there's
like
a secret to
talking
that,
and
right?
I have ADHD.
you've got two folks with ADHD ready to chat about our creative process.
But here's the thing I'm going to argue with you on that, though, is that I bet it's not that, Kaitlin. And here's why, because there's a ton of podcasts that do that are not interesting, right? What's interesting is that you're able to find that balance between conversations and talking, but everybody has the sense like we need to stop talking about centaurs because this is not interesting anymore. We need to move over and start talking about mattresses now, right? But that's a chemistry, that's a whole kind of thing. So, all right,
And it's making other people feel like they're in on the joke. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
How are we doing on time? We good?
Yeah,
I'm doing good.
I'm thinking maybe 20 more minutes, if that's all right.
Yeah. I just realized I forgot to prep for this one. I'm like, oh yeah, what am I gripping on?
Stop.
No,
Put your phone down.
I'm looking. If I don't keep a letterbox list, I forget everything that's ever happened to me.
Well, you have time. I'll start with Kristen.
I did. I did find the musicians.
Sorry.
Prompt, the musician pitch.
We have K names.
What I sent to the musicians.
Oh, damn.
Oh, okay.
You should just read that out. We can put it somewhere.
Yeah. Let's hear. All right, hold on.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
No. Hold on 1 second. Oh, hey. Are you still here? Wow. Well, the episode is over, but if you're bored, why not go to patreon.com and support the show for as little as $1 a month? Yeah, you can just scroll down and get the link. It's Patreon that makes this and all of our other content possible. Don't you want to join the other floorheads on the Patreon Discord? Anyway, thanks for sticking around. Take care. Bye.